Welcome back, everyone, and to anyone new that is turning up today, escaping the madness. You know, you've had enough of the crazies out there. You just want to unplug from this horrible chapter, this horrible episode of Black Mirror that we're in. Well, this is the place to come, because today we're getting into Piskies Tommyknockers and the real Lord of the Rings. Yes, indeedy. We keep it real here on KBS. And tonight we are going to take things to a new level. Maybe to an inner earth kind of level. Gentlemen, how are we?
Doing absolutely fantastic.
I'm pleased to hear that, yes. Scott, now are you settled in there? Are you ready for what I must tell everyone is probably one of the most in-depth researched shows I think we're ever about to embark on? I want to thank Jason for that firstly, but Scott, you're getting to see behind the scenes here. It's more manic than it usually is. I've got an alphanumeric system to kind of keep everything in order. It's going to be good, man.
Yes. Quite the organizational skills were put to the test right there before the show, and in typical OBS fashion, things kind of started getting a little wild, and Kev had to do a little scrambling, but
it got a bit wily there for a while, Scott, didn't it? It got a bit kind of... yeah, it was looking a bit kind of rough. But yes, we are here today with Jason Merrett. Now, we all know him as one of our own. He's First Paranormal on YouTube. We'll be taking a look at his channel along the way as well. But settle in, folks, because, you know, when Jason mentioned this to me the other night, he came to hang out on the show. And just when we got off air, he says, Kev, I'm working on something, you know, maybe Friday, Saturday, I'll have it put together. And he says about Piskies, Tommyknockers, and the real Lord of the Rings. And I was already there. He had me at Piskies. But when he showed me some, or when I was starting to put some of this in a folder getting ready for today, folks, this is taking a lot of time, a lot of work. And I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, and hopefully we'll change Scott's mum's mind about that. Tana, I hope you're listening in. We're gonna convince you tonight about the little people. And we often talk on this show, Scott, don't we? We often talk about the myth, the lore. It comes from somewhere. There's a kernel of truth in there. No smoke without fire. And you often talk about the potential for cavernous earth, little people, stuff like that. And, well, you can see what Jason's put together here. It's quite comprehensive, I think.
Yeah, I definitely think that there is definitely some truth when it comes to this, and because you wouldn't see it so prolific, you know, in, you know, like mythos and stories and legend and all of that. And, you know, and it's not even just isolated to the UK. I mean, you see stories like this all around the world as well, you know. And so, yeah, definitely. And if you excuse me, guys, for just a second, I'm gonna shoot off just for a second, and I'm going to actually call my mother and tell her to tune in. So.
Awesome. And you know, thinking about that there though, Jason, it's a lot harder, I would imagine, to get people to get interested in topics like fairies, gnomes, elves, Piskies, Tommyknockers. But yet, if we hear talk of anything giant, well, that's quite okay, because we've got the Nephilim, we've got all these stories of old things, and people don't have a problem going the vertical way, you know, big sizes, but I think it's equally fair to look at the small ones as well. Before I hand it to you, I think this is going to be the perfect show to follow on from everything that Max, the Black Templar, came on and presented about Northern Europe and some of that stuff. So, Jason, welcome back, and looking good, my man. What
Thanks
really
for having me on, Kev. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's always good to have you on, brother. I tell you, man. But what inspired you, first of all, to sit down and really put this together, because no joke, man, you've probably got the basis for a book here.
Well, I started my channel and I didn't really know where it was going. And then we had this situation where we're all stuck in for a little while. So I started, as you know, putting the little stories around Dartmoor on, and they got more and more and bigger. And I looked into it more and started researching. And then all of the stories, basically, they've got some kind of little person helping or in there somewhere. So I thought I'd put some of the stories together. Now, the stories I did is only a small fraction of what the stories are. And so I put the main stories in. And then when I started looking at them and putting the ones I put together in and researching, Tolkien took a lot of his myths from Dartmoor and Cornwall. And as we go on, I'll explain that a little bit later. But so the more I looked, the more there was about the little people.
Yeah, so you now know what I mean. Instead of like the more you learn, the like more questions you answer, it's the exact opposite, right? The more you unearth, the more places there is to go.
Yeah, as I was researching, like we was talking before the stream, you just uncover more and more, and it just gets bigger and bigger.
Yep, absolutely, brother. So I will let you lead us in to the Piskies. And Scott, yes, I know I've got problems even saying it. My head wants to say it's Pixie, Kev, Pixie. But because we're so familiar with that, when I get presented with Pesky, problems, Scott. I had to go and check if it was right. I didn't know if Jason had spelt it wrong. And then, you see what I'm saying? And even you had to check with me, right?
Yeah, because I was like, was that kind of a...
Because I've got really bad spelling at the best of times. So I know I'm good to be proof checked.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't, because I didn't want you to accidentally misspell something, so I had to just double check it, and I was like, oh, okay, that's how it's spelled. That's wow. I've never seen it spelled. I've never heard it pronounced like that or anything.
Tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So then, Jace, all yours, man. I'm gonna get my hammock out. I'm gonna sit here and enjoy the show.
So, for everyone at home, just before we get on to the little people, I just want to cover a little story that I did. It's called the Bowman's Nose. And if Kev, you can put the first two pictures up to do with the Bowman's Nose, please. The Bowman was the greatest hunter on Dartmoor. And he convinced the moorfolk not to be afraid of the witches. Now, he had the most wild hounds on Dartmoor and he would hunt. And one day, he came across a coven. And he was chasing a hare. So he chases this hare through a valley and goes through the witch's coven. Chases the hare back out of the valley and carries on with his day. Now the witches are fuming and they decide to get together and get all the witches of Dartmoor together and decide to trick the bowman and cast a spell on him. So the bowman, next time he's out, he's going past the valley where the bowman's nose is. And one of the witches can turn herself into a hare. So she turns herself into a hare, and the bowman gives chase. Now he chases her over tours all over the moors, and the chase continues, and they lose him. And then they find the hare again, and they chase it into this valley. And when he gets into the valley, which is just below this, where this stone is, there's a coven of witches waiting from Dartmoor. And he fights valiantly, but unfortunately there's too many witches, and he loses, and they turn him into stone. And the stones at his feet are his dogs, and that's the bowman that they turn to stone.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing when you see it. And Scott, we spoke about this before, didn't we? Because it's pretty immense when you check it out.
Mm-hmm. Very, very interesting. And I know that if Joe was here, he would totally be on board with this as well.
Would I mention a hellhounds in there as well, man?
Yeah. And I think last time we talked about this, I mentioned I think it was after we were off air, after we got off the stream, that that doesn't look like a natural structure to begin with. It looks like those rocks were stacked there, and Of course, I'm sure that they say that, well, that was just a natural formation, but
If I could
it,
just
it
butt in,
reminds me.
Scotty, sorry to steal your thunder. The only reason I'm butting in is I was just about to say that's exactly what they say. It was weathering.
Wow.
Yeah. And you know,
So wait a
reminds me.
minute. That's meant to be weathering. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of, like, you know, when you see people that do that stone stacking by rivers, you know, like kind of as a little hobby or whatever. It's supposed to be kind of a stress relieving meditative kind of thing, to take stones and kind of stack them up and see how high you can get them before they fall over or whatever like that. It reminds me of something like that, where somebody just took a bunch of, took some stones and kind of stacked them up, and that they're kind of balancing on top of each other.
That's what it looks like to me. I mean, we've got something in Scotland called cairns, and we put stones on top of one another. And sometimes you see these, I think they're called dolmens. It's like really weird stones, and it looks like it shouldn't even balance. The physics doesn't look right. But that's what I often, when I first thought that, I thought it had been something, just stacked together, Jace.
Yeah, funny enough you say that, because we've got cairns as well, and there is a reason. And we've got megalithic structures, but we're going to get into that later. The reason I brought this story up, because it doesn't end there. The Moor folk are so enraged that they get together and they drive the witches out of Devon. Now, the witches flee across the Bristol Channel and go to Wales. And now this is where we get the story of the witch's hat. At the time, the Welsh ladies would wear pointed hats, and the witches liked them so much they decided to wear them, and that's where we get the Western view of witches' hats.
I remember you saying that to me before. You got the
Yeah.
I had no idea it came from there.
Yeah, so that's the story it comes from, how witches got their pointed hats. So that's why I just brought this little story out, because I know a lot of the people in the chat like a bit of Wicca and stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. So let me delete that, and we've got a super chat coming in from Lance. Thank you very, very much, brother. Yes, hellhounds indeed. Let me remove this. Here we go. So that's that one away. And as the show goes on, when we get a chance, because Jason will obviously need a breather at some point. He's got... There we go. Yay.
Hellhounds.
And we're going to get rid of Homer soon. I know we all like Homer, but you might have heard me mentioning that Wookie from the chat room, he sent me through some material to teach me, or teach myself, how to do After Effects. And, well, I can definitely stretch to some flashy, snazzy type things for there. I was playing with a lightsaber today, Scott. So you can imagine the joy we're going to have with lightsabers and things coming in. We'll take care of that. But that's another thing altogether. And yeah, Carol in the chat room, she's added some pictures for us to look at today of footprints, and it ties in with all that we're talking about. So Jason, back to you, man.
Right. I would like to start on the Piskies now. So if you can do picture jump to number 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Okay. On you go, man. You just go for it.
Yeah, the pictures you're going to show are old jewellery and depictions of pixies. Piskies. You got me saying it now. So these are more folk and local jewellery from Pixies. Piskies, sorry, even I'm saying it now. From, I now get confused. From Devon and Cornwall. So that's like the old jewellery. So I'll give you what a Pisky is. A Pisky lives on Dartmoor in Cornwall, sometimes known as a pigsty in Cornwall, considered to live around the high moorlands and close to some circles. They're considered to be Celtic in origin and closely related to the Irish leprechauns. There's two kinds of Piskies, one near the ground who helps farmer and people, and the one that lives in the mines and steals tools and generally causes mayhem down in the mines. So, if you got the picture, so that's the old jewellery. So I'm going to go on about sheep store now, and I must pick 9, Kev, because I can't see because it's small.
Okay, I'll get it up here. Hang on. Oh, dang, man. I'll blow it up. It's the same pick 9 as what you had in Discord.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you've got the picture numbers, just you use the same number, dude, and I'll bring it up.
Yeah, if you put picture 9 up, that's it. That's the stone circle that the Piskies live near on Sheep Store. So that's next to Sheep Store, and that's one of the circle rings. But we'll come into them a lot later, Kev. So now I'm going to talk about Sheep Store. So you can put 8, 9, 10, and 11 now, and I'll explain what these photos are and then get on with the story.
Okay. There we go. Hey, there we go. There's the first one.
Right, that is Sheep Store.
Okay. That's it there.
Yep. So that's Sheep Store where the Piskies live.
So that's where those little things, you get some underground and you get some on top of the ground.
Yeah. So
Right.
if you show the other pictures, it actually shows you the official Pesky cave. Yep, there it is. That's the Pesky cave. People still leave food and treats for it, the Piskies now, even today.
Cool. You see, Scotty boy, at some point there's been bad juju happened when the Piskies haven't got fed or something. And that's why, you know, there's obviously some kind of offering been made there. Don't bring any of your shenanigans our way. That's what it strikes me as, anyway. Yes.
Yeah, like there's some kind of it's a offering a way of appeasing them, or finding a little truce. We'll give you some food if you just leave us alone, kind of thing.
Yep, so that's the Pesky cave up in Sheep Store. So I'm going to get on with the story now. It is said Piskies of Dartmoor have lived on Sheep Store since before the time of the men of the stone circles. They did many good deeds and also tricks on those who crossed them. Until one day, man and his machines came and flooded all the Pesky meeting places, such as Pesky rings, Pesky meets, and the lands. So if you put in picture 12, that is a Borator reservoir that's near Plymouth, and that is just down from Sheep Store. And there's actually a village in the middle of the Borator reservoir, and you can only see it when there's droughts. But this is the land that was flooded, and this was the Pesky land that's next to Sheep Store. And this is the myth that they left after they lost the battle with man and the machines.
So you're talking about a proper, actual, like, battle?
Yeah, that was built later, about the end of the 1800s, sometime around there. So that reservoir was built for Plymouth, but it was built on Sheepster land where all the Piskies lived.
Now, that's not that long ago, man. That's not long ago, the end of the 1800s.
Yeah. The stories of the Piskies go up to when cars are about, Kev. There's still little stories.
Wow, man.
Yeah. So, so that's the background of where the area is and where officially all the Piskies live and their lands that were destroyed. So the next bit I'm going to go on about, Kev, I'm going to just jump back. Can you put picture 13 on, which is the Sphinx? And there's a reason why we're watching this again, looking at this again.
There we go.
Now, this story of Vixiana and the handsome farmer who managed to beat her in the end, if anyone remembers it, there was a Pesky who gave the handsome farmer a magic ring. Now, this magic ring turned himself invisible, and that's how he managed to beat Vixiana. So most of the stories have got help from the Piskies. So the Piskies give him magic eyes to see in the dark and the fog, and a magic ring. But I want you to remember the magic ring for later. So I'm going to move on now, Kev. So early stories, the most early stories we get of miners across Pixies are probably like pre the last millennium. When there's always been reports of little people in these mines, but the early miners came across these little fellas, and if they ever took their gold, something bad would happen to them. And there's lots of stories about how ancient miners crossed the Pixies and stole their gold, and they all basically end up dead in accidents.
Now, just while you're on that there, I want people to cast their mind back to a show we were doing not long ago, where we were looking at ancient mines that had been uncovered in Africa. And it was talking about the late 1800s, early 1900s. We had a war over there. Yeah, not many people really know about that. But point being, when they were actually doing the modern mining, trying to get to platinum, gold, stuff like that, it was pretty weird because hundreds of times, not just once or twice, but hundreds of times, you'd have a cave-in. And it's a mining, right? You get cave-ins, but this was different because what it caved into was very elaborate, well-constructed, ancient mines that nobody knew about. And 9 times out of 10 from the images I've seen, they looked more accustomed for people maybe a bit smaller than me. You feel where I'm going here. They were for little people, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, there's lots of stories about miners who crossed the Pixies and didn't come out of it very well. But there's about a dozen more stories just on the Piskies themselves. These are just some of the main ones. So the next one I'm going to move to is the Abbot and the Piskies. Now, the Abbot of Tavistock Abbey, which was pre-built in 997, before the first millennium, and again in 1208. So it's got a history of pre-997 to 1200 when it was built. So if you put picture 14 up, that's the earliest picture I could find of the Abbey.
There we go.
But this is well later on. This is like 16th, 17th, 18th century. But that's the earliest picture I could find of it. But it was actually started getting built in 997, so it's been there a long time. So the Abbot hated the Piskies and the fact the moor folk believed in them, and the fact that they would leave presents and wear Pisky chains and charms. So he decided to go to war with the Piskies. So he declared that everyone on the moors was not allowed to wear Pisky jewellery or leave any offerings anymore. So the Piskies got to hear about this and decided they'd had enough. So the first to feel the Pisky mischief was the monks of the kitchens, who could no longer turn the milk into butter because it would not churn. Then the Abbot's fisheries were hit, and they were unable to fish because they could not see the fish in the sea because the Piskies made them invisible. Also, the monks of the moor would be Pisky-led. Now, Pisky-led means if you cross the Piskies, and they take you on whichever journey you're going on, you never get there because the pesky Piskies always take you somewhere else if you cross them. So all the monks were getting lost and being Pisky-led. This only made the abbots more determined to beat the Piskies. And now we go to the story of what really happened. Now, the monastery had the best reputation in the country for its cider, but what it was really good at, Kev, was a special nectar made from called mead. Now, you know a lot about mead, Kev, and how strong it is.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So the monks are known for making the mead. Now, only 2 monks at a time ever know the recipe, and if one should die, the new person would be told by the other abbot how the mead was made. So this was a particular favourite of the abbot, and he liked to have his tipple of mead. So he was so adamant on beating the Piskies that he said he would never touch a drop again until he defeated the Piskies. Now, he was only drinking water, and the Piskies got to hear about this. So one night they stuck into the abbot and changed his water for mead. Now, he drank his mead and got the taste for it again. So he decided to get his goblet and go down to the cellary. So he goes down to the cellary and dismisses the cellarer and pours himself another glass of mead, and then another and another. And eventually he gets so drunk he falls asleep.
Was he Glaswegian? Was he Glaswegian by any chance?
Yeah, he'd have to be to drink that much
Glaswegians have
mead.
got a really, we have a very strong, I don't know what it is, Scott, but that mead that he's talking about, it's almost like the currency of the west of Scotland. It's like the chosen aperitif of you're rather wild people. It's everywhere. It's stinking. It's disgusting. But dang, does it get you drunk, dude? Oh,
Yeah. So he's got himself blind drunk and fell asleep. So the Piskies decide to go to work. They start pulling his nose and his ears and waking him up. And he'd swat them away and they'd fall asleep again. And they keep waking him up and he'd go to sleep. And they kept doing this till it got to one point where the abbot loses his temper. And it says that all manner of language in Latin and in English was heard across the abbot, and all the monks come rushing in. Now it says in the tale, the monks didn't know whether he was possessed by the devil or possessed by the mead, and that's where that leaves.
it's a bit of both, I think, Jason. And can I just add that term blind drunk, I think that actually comes from that mead because it turns you kind of invisible because you think you can do anything and get away with it. And you can't really see what you're doing after about half a bottle of it. It's amazing stuff.
Yeah.
It is. Yep.
So the next day, the abbot wakes with a hangover and the embarrassment of the moor folk realising he's a laughing stock. So it only resolves his resolution to getting rid of the Piskies. Now, then, a few weeks later, a travelling monk from the Holy Lands appears, and they get to talking about the Piskies and his problem. And the travelling monk from the Holy Land suggests that the abbot should exercise the land of the the monks' lands in the monastery and also the surrounding area. Because this travelling man said that the Piskies are to do with the devil and you should exercise them. So all the monks and the abbot get their water, get their Bibles, did prayers, went around the lands, and eventually they built a Pesky cross at Whitchurch Common. Now, if you can put number 15 up, please, on the pictures, Kev.
Absolutely. I feel like Joe Rogan's producer today. That's cool. This is awesome. I like this job. I can almost get rid of my radio face. I could just sit here at the desk and be your able assistant, Jace. I like it, man.
So that's the official Pesky cross, which is at Whitchurch Common, which is near Tavistock. And the saying goes is if you've been tricked
now for our American viewers who have been down the rabbit hole a while like I have, we're not talking about that Tavistock. It's not that Tavistock.
No. The actual real one.
Yeah, this is a good one. It's okay. It's just it's okay. No agendas.
So the lands of Tavistock were cleared of the Pesky spells, and they could no longer enter the lands. So if you ever found yourself Pesky led and you find the lands of Tavistock, you can break the spell. So it goes. So that's how the Piskies were banned from the lands and abbots of Tavistock.
That's pretty amazing, dude. What amazes me, though, what really strikes me is the fact that, you know, you've got this time where you're literally talking about cohabitation between these little people, the Piskies. It's not like they're supernatural. They're just part of life. It's just normal.
Yeah, it's just normal to the moor folk. They've always been there.
Yeah.
So now we're going to move on to another story. This is the story of the odious Pesky.
Well, before we get there, somebody in the chat room, I don't know if you've touched on this in your research, Jace, but Black Tree says, what can he tell us about the hag stones or the witch stones?
I haven't heard of them, I've got to admit, but there might be a reason. And when we get to the end and I'll show you something, there might be a reason why I haven't heard of it.
Awesome.
Only because I'm going to show you exactly what I've been looking at and how many stories there are, and you might see why it's been lost. But I will look for that, Kev. So, yeah, thank you. So, I'm going to go on about the odious Pesky now. So, he was the most odious creature to walk the earth. No Pesky, no magic folk, no human alike had a good word to say about him. His name was Leggins. He was bone idle, lazy, and spent his days scrounging off the single Pesky maids who were stupid enough to help him. So, one day, the odious Pesky was idling down by the river Woking when he heard some voices come out of the ground. It was a group of Tommyknockers coming out of the old mine edit. So now you can put pictures 1, 2, and 3 in. Sorry, Kev, that was the way I've done it.
There we go. I'll get them, Jason.
So these
Don't you worry
are
about that.
some pictures of what Piskies look like. Sorry, Tommyknockers now.
That one there. This is the best one here, I think. There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
We've got another
That
one there.
one, and that black and white one that you put on first is the oldest picture of. No, that one is. That the one up there, they looked a bit dwarfish, but that one there, especially you're doing now, that's like one of the oldest drawings of a Tommyknocker. As you can see, it looks like it's drawn by a long time ago.
Very long time ago. And
Yeah.
Scotty, I'll bring you in here, right? Because what do you think then? You think this was the boredom of somebody, you know, just started drawing really random, weird looking people down the mines and things? Or do you think he was drawing things that had already been seen and known about?
I think it's the latter.
Yeah. I'm with you, man.
Because people don't just. There was much better ways to spend your time back then, I think, than to just decide that you're gonna.
You'd be the
start
village fool, wouldn't you? You'd be the village idiot.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. And the Tommyknocker thing, it's like, guess what would we call them here? I mean, because they go by a couple different names, but it reminds me of.
You've got the Clockers, the Kent Clockers. You've got Tommyknockers. Actually,
Yeah.
in America, it is Tommyknockers because I'm going to explain the history of why it's Tommyknockers later in America. There is a reason why you took our myth on.
Yeah, because it reminds me of there was an old Bugs Bunny cartoon where, remember, there was it was kind of it was a World War II era Bugs Bunny cartoon, and he was there was like a Tommyknocker, or I guess we would call it, Tommyknocker, and he was trying to blow up the bomb, you know, hitting it with a mallet, and he kept messing with the plane and, you know, trying to get it to crash and all of that stuff. And so, I mean, those stories go back, you know,
oh, sorry, go on.
No, I was just saying that, you know, even that whole kind of story of Tommyknockers and stuff like that is prevalent here in the U.S. as well. And there was even like bomber crews and, you know, people in aircraft, you know, like bomber crews in World War II saying that they thought that something was in the plane trying to sabotage it, you know, and cause it to crash and stuff like that.
I think this
There's
maybe led on to sort of like a gremlin myth as well. Maybe the
Gremlin, that's what I was. That's the word I was.
Gremlins are the ones that mess about in your homes and stuff like that, and with your electrics. Yeah, you're right. So I'm going to explain what a Tommyknocker is now. So a Tommyknocker is more famous in Cornwall, but on Dartmoor, they're there as well. And they're slightly different to Piskies. Now, there's two types of Piskies like I explained before. But a Tommyknocker is a mythical creature in Welsh, Cornish and Devon folklore. Described by the Cornish as 2 feet tall, with a big head, long arms, wrinkled skin and long whiskers. Again, related to the leprechaun, Scottish brownie, the Kent Clocker. So, it wears tiny standard miners' clothes and commits random acts of mischief like stealing miners' tools and food. But generally, the Tommyknockers have been seen as generally pretty nice. If you're nice to them, like the miners are, they look after you.
I watched a show in America called Ghost Mine, and the miners, to a man, and it was only men there, I'm not being sexist, to a man, they said that they'd had their lives saved by Tommyknockers.
Exactly.
They told a story about one time where one of them heard the Tommyknocker, and the minute they heard it, one of the older boys in the mine said, out of here now. And literally as soon as they got out of there, you had a cave in. And so I've heard this kind of thing before. And even when they were doing that ghost investigation, because there was miners there, the minute they heard any tapping, that was it. They were out. Close it down. We're
Yeah.
out of here. Superstitious as hell, man.
Yeah. There's a reason you've hit the nail on the head, but you've jumped about an hour too forward.
That's
so
all
we're
right.
gonna leave.
Yeah.
So we're going to jump back to the story, and Tommyknockers are coming to it again later. So, the odious Pisky is down by the River Wakem, and he comes across a bunch of Tommyknockers. So, one of the Tommyknockers was holding a bulging pouch so tightly his little hands were white. Unfortunately, they had not heard of the reputation of Leggins, or they would probably have ignored him. "Where have you been down the mines looking for treasure?" Maybe, said the knockers. Leggins managed to trick them and befriend them. So, sorry, one page. So, the one with the pouch held it aloft in his head, above his head, and told Leggins they had been to the secret cavern to get some crystals for the Elf King. It's his birthday, and he wants one for his new crown. Now we've got elves coming in, but it's not L, it's not E-L. VES, it's Elvin, ELFIN here, Kev.
All right.
So it's not elves like Father Christmas, it's Elfin where we are.
And
Yeah.
I find it quite interesting, the crystal thing. This might sound weird, but when I think crystal, Scott, I think of technology and modern, like, circuits and being able to do cool things with crystals, you know, not just decorative, you know?
Well, you know, we've talked about many times before that maybe a lot of this old ancient technology, it was technology that was in a form that's different than than our technology now. You know, maybe they were utilizing crystals and, you know, they had an entirely different way that their technology operated on, right? And so, I mean, obviously you see once again in stories and legends all around the world that the importance of crystals seem to be a very common thread that you see. And, you know, this is just another example of it. You know, they wanted to give this crystal to this elfin king, because it obviously had some kind of power or significance or something to it. So, yep,
Yeah.
very interesting.
So we'll get back to the story. So it says Leggins' eyes bulged, and he come up with a cunning idea. "My, the Elf King," he said. "Bet he will be pleased. And do you know what the funny thing is? It's the Pesky King's birthday next week, and we didn't know what to get him. And maybe we could have one of your crystals from the cavern." Now, the Tommyknockers looked at each other and knew where this was going. So, Leggins manages to persuade the Tommyknockers to take him to the secret cavern if they'll blindfold him, so he doesn't know where it is. So, they all get together and they decide that they will. So, but before they go, he asks one more favour. "I'm ever so hungry, and I noticed you got a crib box," which is a sandwich box down here, "and I was wondering if you had any sandwiches." Now, the Tommyknockers gave him 2 sandwiches. One he eats and one he puts in his pocket. So they blindfold him and take him to the secret caverns. Right, yeah. So when they get there, they take off the blindfold and they tell him to go down and take 1 crystal only. But the thing is, Leggins is lazy and cunning. So what he does is, he says, "I have ever such a bad back. I was wondering if one of you could possibly go down and get me a crystal." So it ends up, one of the Tommyknockers comes down. It actually says it's getting late and they want to get home to have a whortleberry pie. So whortleberries live on the moors, and that's what the little people eat, Kev. So one of the Tommyknockers goes down, gets the jewel, comes back up. They blindfold Leggins again, take him out of the secret cavern and back to the moors. Now, they say goodbye to him and off they go. They look back though, and as they look back, he's sat on the floor rubbing the crystal with his hands. Now keep that in mind for later on. So the very next day, the Tommyknockers put on their best suits and go off to the Elf Inn King's party. they present the Elfin King and his jeweler with the crystals, and the Elfin jeweler runs off to put them in the crown. A few out. Oh, this is the important bit, especially if you live in Devon. The Tommyknockers were rewarded with jam, scones, and cream tea. And if you live down my way, Kev, that's a pretty good reward.
Aye. Yep.
So, a few hours later, the jeweler comes back, not looking happy. He talks to the Elfin King, who now looks really upset. It's apparently he's one jewel short of his crown. So the Tommyknockers get to action. They say they go back to the secret cabin and be back by midday with a new crystal for the crown. So they reach the secret cabin, and the chief Tommyknocker says he will go down, and he descends the cabin, and all of a sudden, all manner of foul language could be heard in Elfin, in Pesky, and in human. The chief Tommyknocker appeared and declared all the crystals had been dug out. So they tried to figure out what would happen. The only other living creature who'd been to the secret cabin was the odious Pesky, Leggins. One of the knockers shines his light on the floor and sees breadcrumbs leading out of the cave. That's how he did it, he explains. Do you remember we gave him some sandwiches and he ate one and he put the other one in his pocket? He must have had a hole in his pocket and left some crumbs. So they decide to find him and go looking for Leggins. And they send one knocker off to tell the Elf King what's happened. So they find Leggins eating a pork pie on a peat hag. Right, this is important now.
Of course,
all the stories I'm telling
there's
you.
no way this is made up. This is too detailed. You don't need got a dude sitting there now with pork pie on the go. You've got crystals
Now,
getting
I
mined.
don't know if you've noticed, they're all eating, and there is a reason for this later. So they like eating a lot. So he's eating his pork pie and a peat hag. He didn't even seem too surprised and says hello. So they accuse him of stealing the crystal. He pleads all manners of innocence. He's got a bad back. He was blindfolded. It couldn't have possibly be him. So, yeah. So the knockers decide to take him to see the
False
old
flag, Scott.
Crocker.
The false flag, I'm telling you, man. He was set up.
So, ready? They go to take him to see old Crocker. Now, if you can put pictures 17 and 18 up, please,
Sure
Kev.
thing, man. Sure thing. Yep. I'll turn these off. 16, 17, 18, yeah?
17 and 18.
17.
I think
there
I
we go.
missed 16, yeah,
There we
sorry. But
There's
that was only
17.
a picture of a Tommyknocker.
There we go.
Yeah, that is Crocken Tor. Now that is where the god of the moor lives.
All right.
So, old Crocken, he was the god of the moor in pre-Christian times and described as galloping on the moor on a skeleton horse with his whist hounds. And we're going to get into the whist hounds later.
Oh,
But
hang
he
on a
was
minute.
old-
Now, this took a bit of a turn into the dark and nasty. We've got like some what sounds like a disembodied kind of entity riding about on a horse with hellhounds and chains and
No, a
probably
skeleton
smoke.
horse, Kev, a skeleton horse.
A skeleton
Yeah.
horse. Oh well, that
Yeah.
makes it a lot more better then.
So it says, but he was old as time and made of granite, and his hair was green with lichen. He was the spirit of the moor. He lived on Crocken Tor. He was sat on Parliament Rock eating a pie. So that's how they find it. But if you look at that picture, doesn't it look like a stone throne or something like that for a giant? Do you know what I mean? Can you see what I'm thinking?
Yep.
It definitely has a very, I would say, once again, it doesn't look natural. Let's just put it that way.
Some people say that's his head and nose, and other people say that's the throne that the god of the moor sat on. So, yeah. So that's old Crocker. Now we've got a god of the moor. Who knew, eh, Kev? So,
Exactly. I'm just telling him. Becky was saying, she says, you don't have a West Country accent. It's more Cockney. But no, I've lived down in Dorset. I was in Blandford when I was down at the School of Signals. You do have a West Country. I would say you do have I can hear that.
Yeah.
I
Well,
went to school
my
with a
mum's
guy from.
Scottish, my dad's a Cockney, so a bit of both.
So
But
you
yeah.
got a bit of Cockney in there. I
Well,
remember.
when I'm talking with my mates, we go into proper farmer talk and that, innit?
Yeah, 'cause I was going to say I went to school with a guy from Bristol, and it was horrendous, man. It was like, wow, what planet are you from, dude? You know what I mean?
It's weird. They've got a stronger accent than us, and we're a bit further down.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. So we've met O'Crocken now, the god of the moor.
Well, not physically, thankfully, because I don't do skeleton horses on a Friday, Saturday night. When are we? Sunday morning now.
So he sat on Parliament Rock, which I find quite interesting, don't you, Kev?
Yeah, that's a bit weird.
Yeah, it's called Parliament Rock, and he was eating a pie.
Well, you know, some things haven't changed. Demonic things, sitting in Parliament, eating, drinking. That sounds about right. All it's missing is a skeleton horse down at Westminster.
So we've met old Crocken. So the knockers tell old Crocken about Leggins, the crystal caverns, and the Elf King's predicament. When old Crocken spoke, the moor shook and trembled. He had heard of the reputation of the odious Pesky Leggins. So the Tommy, not one page, new one.
It's got that many pages there, man.
Yeah. No,
it's like when I was talking about, I was watching one of these videos decoding the not the new King of England the other day, and I don't know if this was like some forensic stuff going on in this video, Scott, but this individual had bits of paper stuck to the wall, they were stuck to the top of a table. It was either really good investigative kind of stuff or the descent into madness. I go with the latter of the two, but yeah.
So, we've met the Crocken. He stood up to speak, and the moors are shaking with fear. He bellowed, "Even the vipers and Whistman's wood could not stoop as low as you. If anyone should scratch my back, I will rip out their pockets. I have lived since the dawn of time, and have patience in plenty. This odious Pesky shall know when I will exact my revenge when I am ready." And with that, he shoos them all away. That's the end of that. He carries on eating his pie.
I got a bit nasty all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Somebody decided they were going to lay down the law and had enough.
That escalated quickly on the moor.
We're going to get into Whistman's woods later. But for the time being, for about 2 years, nothing was heard. Then a group of Tommyknockers come across Pesky. They got to newsing, which is what the little people call their gossiping, Kev, newsing.
That's a bit weird.
I
wonder what came first, them newsing or us calling it news.
Yeah. So they get to newsing. Now the Piskies were having a massive celebration and party. They were celebrating the fact the most odious one had passed on. He had been killed. The odious Pesky Leggins had died. He'd spent all of his ill-gotten gains and found another cave, stripped it bare, and took the fortune to Plymouth, where he frittered away in no time and went down an old mine called Wheel Fortune. Now, we're going to get into Wheel Fortune and the Battle of Piskies in a minute. So, he's rummaged about in Wheel Fortune, and he slips, and he knocks a beam, which brings down the home edit of the mine. And the prop skewers him right down his left side and out of his right thigh, and literally tore out his pockets.
Oh.
And
that's
the god of
weird.
the moor got his revenge.
That is weird. Do you know, though, when I'm hearing you talking about this, you know, all these crystals, all these mines, you know, we hear about the Anunnaki and things like that, and them doing things to us so we could get mining, and is that all this place is about, guys? I mean, have we basically, like, near enough stripped it? We're doing a good job still to this day, right, Scott? I mean, looks like that's all that's ever gone on here. Mining, right? Just by various shapes and forms of people, obviously.
It just goes back to what I was saying. I mean, there's obviously a lot of importance in crystals and, you know, just gems and...
Look at the other day, right? Look at the other day when we watched Andy cutting the stuff and he had the little ruby.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? How gems can be used for various things, eh?
Yeah, you know, and you know, just just in more recent times, as far as like technology is concerned, it's obviously been proven that you can store information inside quartz crystal and all of this stuff. And so like there is this, we're finding that there is a lot that can be done with crystal and all of this stuff. And so it is interesting that when you see all of this stuff, they're going down there mining all of this. They feel that there's obviously an importance to this, and it's interesting. It's very interesting.
I've got my thinking face on.
So, the next story we're going to do is the Battle of the Piskies, Kev.
I seen it. I knew I had my thinking face on for a reason, Jason.
Yeah. So, the Battle of the Piskies. For millennia, it has been known there are Piskies on Dartmoor. But in fact, in the dusty reaches of time, there are in fact two kinds of Piskies. The good or mischievous Piskies live near the ground and help farmers and landowners for gifts of food and water, etc. Now, let's call the bad Piskies Peskies.
Oh, pesky
Yeah.
Peskies.
They live deep in the mines and caused havoc and mayhem to the tin miners. They did not mix well, to say the least. Think chalk and cheese. Now, these are not Tommyknockers. These are the Piskies that live deep in the mines, okay?
So we've got like cohabitation going on in the mines.
Yeah, we've got land Piskies, we've got the deep cavern Piskies, and we've got the Tommyknockers who work the mines with the miners.
I bet you I'm the only man in the whole of Britain right now. Well, out of 124 people is taking notes on this, but I'm actually taking notes on this.
I mean, it is interesting because we're talking about we're talking about at least right now what three sort of hominid species that are coexisting with each other, or you've got the Tommyknockers, you've got humans, and you've got the Piskies. And then you got kind of a separate subset of Piskies that live deep down and that are.
What did Joe Joseph say to us, Scott? What did Joe Joseph say to us? The further you go back in time, the more it looks like Lord of the Rings. He was right. I hate saying he was right, but he was right. Damn him.
Scotty, that was a brilliant description of exactly what I'm explaining, so thank you. So, they didn't really like each other, the Piskies and the Peskies. And there was a bit of rivalry, well, to say the least. So the naughty Peskies would sometimes, occasionally, raid the Pisky meets and Pisky rings and have punch-ups with the Piskies. So if ever they meet, they would basically fight each other. But one day, if you put in pick 19 now, Kev.
No, I'm just thinking in the world today, you think about what's going on in the world today, and no, there's nothing new under the sun, and nothing changes. Very cyclical, right?
Yeah.
So
pick 19 will show you a picture of a
19.
girt.
Okay,
Yeah, this
then.
is a girt.
Right, 2 seconds, and I'll get my girt out. It sounded
And
a
if you
lot
look
worse.
closely and make it a bit bigger, somebody funnily put a little figure of a little person in there. Look.
Holy heck. Lucky you said that, or I would have freaked out. I'd gone, has anyone spotted that in the picture?
Yeah, so that's called a girt. So that's where the Peskies would come out of. And it says, one day, a group of Peskies were near a girt, and a Pisky was picking cowflops near the entrance to the girt. Now, cowflops are the flowers they live on and stuff like that. So the Peskies were furious. And basically, they beat the living daylights out of him and sent him home with a message. This means war.
Now, what time period are we going to for this again, Jace?
Well, I think must be one of the oldest stories. So I'm saying Iron Age, man.
Yeah.
Well, not maybe Iron. Yeah, passed on I'm talking before BC, and I'll explain why.
We're going way cycle. Yeah.
The way I did the story is this is actually the story. I explained at the beginning how we lost the Piskies and they went off, and then I'm going back in time, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, backfilling. Yeah, I've got you, man.
So the reason for all the resentment was the Peskies part. They were jealous of the Piskies. Now the Piskies were treated kindly by the moor folk, as we said earlier. But unfortunately, the Peskies were treated terrible by the miners. And that's why they stole their tools and caused general mayhem. And that's what started the rivalries. So they decided to go to war. And the problem is, the naughty Peskies did learn something from the humans. They learned to smelt metal, but they didn't make ingots. What they decided to build were swords and arrows to finally take out the Piskies.
Whoa, so they're getting tooled up. They're getting ready,
Yeah,
man.
now I want you to remember this. These are the deep mine Piskies, the Peskies, who are now making weapons, okay? I'm going to go on about this later when we get to something else. So, the Piskies are in trouble. The only bit of hardware they've got are their hurts, which is a small basket. So, a council of war was convened, and they all decided to take refuge at Blackator, which lay on Oakmont River. So if you put pictures 20 and 21 up,
Absolutely, man.
that is Blackator, where the Battle of the Pixies occurred.
This is absolutely crazy. This is awesome.
So they fled to this area. So there's a small wood at the bottom of this moor. So they decided to go here because of the protection it could give. And that picture there, that's the actual old like Iron Age miners that used to go down there and stuff like that.
Look at that. Look at that.
Yeah.
You can see you get in. Wow.
Yeah, that's a proper mine. You got to be careful on the moors. It's full of hundreds of mines.
Now, can I
some
just,
of them are just in the floor and people have been lost to them and all sorts.
Let's just pause for a moment because we've been looking at old stoneworking recently, and big shout out to Spooky Andy again. He's going to be sending me that rock, actually, the one that he cut the star out
build
of.
one.
Yeah, but when I look at that, Scott, that's a bit of a weird wall formation, is it not? You know?
Yeah, I mean, once again, it looks like rocks stacked up.
Yeah,
You know?
big times look like they've been kind of heated up, poured into sheets. You know?
Yeah, and then etched in vertically and just very.
Look at that, very precise there. I mean,
Yeah.
and we're going back to
yeah.
we're going back way back. You know, people running about with chicken bones and chicken feet. Sure thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the place they decide to defend themselves. So they send as many people as send as many Piskies as they can out to dig peat to make a wall to defend themselves. So the tale goes of the battle. The Peskies horde it is assembled at Will Virgin Mine, which is only 3 miles east of Blackator. So, having sharpened their swords and arrows, they set about drinking a keg of cider they stole. They drank themselves into a right frenzy and set off to Blackator. They were screaming and shouting, an army of berserkers. With all the racket going on, the Pisky lookouts could see them from miles off, went down to raise the alarm.
You see, that's not very strategic, making all that noise. That's not
well,
good.
They got drunk, Kevin. They thought they had the power, didn't they? They got all the weapons.
That pesky mead.
Yep. So, eventually, the rabble come to the tour and saw the cops in the Wall of Deeds, this is called. I want you to remember this Wall of Deeds, and laughed in amusement at how they would slaughter the cowering Piskies. So, the battle begins. But each time they attempted to climb the copse, they were mysteriously repelled. They hacked with their swords, but to no avail. Their arrows would fire over the wall, but only to return. They fought all morning and into the afternoon, and eventually by the evening, they'd had enough and gave up and decided to go off back to Will Virgin Mine to drink their sorrows. Now,
that sounds like, remember when we were like in Afghanistan and we had like the Afghanistani army supporting like the Brits and the Americans, and like when it would get dark they would go back down the mountain and go home for the night? That's what it sounds like. I don't know. I'm out of here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so they've gone off. They're in a huff now. So it says, once they had crossed the tor and out of sight, magical rings appeared to float all across the moor. The golden rings would hit the ground, and each ring turned into a lush green grass and made a Pesky ring. Can you show 22, 23, and 24 now, please, Kev?
Oh, heck yeah, man. This is cool. Look at this, folks. There's 1, 22, 23. Yep, there we go. And I'll get 24 as well.
I know the two with the mushroom ones are from the moors, but the red one, I'm not sure where it was, Kev. I'll just use it as an example.
Pretty cool, though.
Yeah, so that is a Pesky ring. Now,
That's, before we go anywhere, Scotty, what do you make of that? And this is going to sound weird, right? But I know you like Paul Stamets and mushrooms and fungi and things. But that's pretty weird, right?
Very interesting that they're growing in a pattern. You know, it's just a perfect circle.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Pesky ring.
That's bizarre. Come on, now it doesn't look. Regardless of what people think, you might think the three guys here on this panel were off our heads. But you can't say that it's not interesting. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, people. We have not consumed said mushrooms growing in the Pesky ring.
No, we are merely analysing. We're going back in time to when literally, yeah, I'm not going to say it. We're going to get there eventually, but this is pretty cool, dude.
But you also see like the mushroom represented in a lot of kind of this, like mystical artwork and things like that.
Disney version of it,
Well,
like
let's
the
go the
Disney
other way as
version.
well. Let's go the other way because think of Terence McKenna and think of people who take, psilocybin, all the kind of mind expanding kind of stuff, right? There's common stories of what you come across. Machine elves. But there's elves, there's little people in there. They're part of whatever it is you go through with this consciousness thing, right?
I mean that seems to be another, like you said, a common experience.
Is it one of those archetypes, Scott?
Maybe, like with people that experiment with like DMT, they eat what they call the clockwork elves, and it's like, very interesting.
So I'm just going to finish the last bit of this story off before we move on. So the wise woman of the moor, whoever she is, she's just turned up. The wise woman of the moor saw what had happened and knew of tales of old that these were Pesky rings. It is said, if a Pesky stands inside one of these rings, no harm can come to the Peskies. Well, they were so no harm had come to the Peskies. So basically this is what I'm interpreted as. This is when the Peskies get their magic, because they can't defend themselves, and then all of a sudden the magic comes behind them and the golden rings appear, and this is how Peskies get their magic from the Pesky rings.
Is the wise woman, is she representing almost Mother Nature, or is she
probably.
or is she physical? And there's a fine line between wise and witch, depending on what period of time and who looks at it, right?
Well, it says she was passed down the traditions of old, so maybe it was a wise old woman at the time.
Yep, could well have been.
So, you might ask, what happened to the naughty Peskies? Well, they were so ashamed of their performance at the Battle of the Wall of Deeds, they never showed their faces above surface ever again. So that's what happened to them.
So they stayed underground, Scott. Did you get that, dude? They're under there, man. You're in. You're up.
They retreated back underground with their tail tucked between their legs, and haven't shown themselves ever since. Very interesting.
Yes. So that's the end of the Battle of the Piskies. Now we're going to be going on about that later. I don't know if anyone rang any bells of kind of what battle that reminded them of, but we're going to carry on. So now we're going to talk about Whistman's Wood, Kev. If you can do picture 25, 26, and 27, please. I'll let you have a minute to talk about this picture.
I'm glad you done that, because when I was putting the pictures into the folder today, the next one we're about to see really made me stop and take pause. This is... No point me talking about it. Wait, you get a load of this one. Scotty, check this out. Look at that.
Whoa.
Look at that, man.
Dude. I mean, that is just, that literally is like something that you would see in a movie, right?
You know
in
what else
a
it made me think
magical
of, Scott?
forest.
It made me think of almost like a crop circle, but not a crop circle because it's like moss on a stone. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it also makes me think of the spirals that you see in a lot of like petroglyphs and rock carvings as well. You know, the concentric circle sort of thing is a kind of a common thing you see when it comes to that stuff. So
It's almost got a kind of eye almond kind of shape to it there as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just about to say that it could also, it looks like an eye as well. So
If you post the other two, that's exactly what I think it is.
It looks like the optical nerve coming off the back of it, man. Look at that pareidolia setting in, boys. Here we go. Hang on a minute. It
there's
looks like
another two.
this. Here we go. I'll
There
get
is
it, Jace.
another
Yeah.
two of
Here we
them,
go.
Kev, yeah.
Here we go.
Just so people can see it a bit closer.
There we go. Wah-wah-wee-wah.
And I'll explain what this is in a minute once we get into the story. I just thought I'd give you a minute just to let you have a look at what you thought that was.
You know, I would offer another one, and this is like, I don't think this is it, but you could interpret that as maybe looking at trying to record something solar orbits. Only because you see it in stone circles sometimes. That's the only, and I'm saying I don't think that's what it is, but it reminds me of that.
Yeah, could be, Kev. Could be. So I'm going to get on about Whistman's Woods now. So it's an Oakland dwarf forest. Now I thought the dwarf forest will have dwarfs in, but sorry to disappoint anyone. There are no dwarfs in Dartmoor mythology, and there is a reason. So, but I think we're going to make up with this forest, Kev. So this is the Oakland dwarf forest. It's one of only 3 left on Dartmoor and covers about 9 acres. It's owned by the Duchy of Cornwall. The forest is covered in lichen, and the boulders and trees are covered in lichen as well. So the forest is left over from the last ice age, and they say it was this forest once covered the whole of the moors. So between 7,000 and 5,000 BC, the forest was cleared by in the Mesolithic period by the hunter-gatherers at about 5,000 BC. Sorry. So the reason this part of the forest was left and uncleared is because of all the boulders on the floor. So the Druid or Butler Stone, as called after Wentworth Butler, who tried to age the forest in 1866. He cut down a tree which was 168 years old. So the trees are between 3 to 500 years old, some of them in this forest. But the forest is actually 5,000 years old. But these are just the trees that are about 400 or 500 years old. So if you can put pictures 28, 29, 30, 31, 32 and 33 in, this will give you sort of like the uncreepy view of the creepy forest.
This is you know, when you look at some of these pictures, you actually think to yourself, wow, that's been done on Photoshop or something. No, this place is like literally like something out of a fairy tale.
yeah, like I said, it literally is like, it just looks like something out of a fantasy movie. Oh.
Kev, I'm just going to take a quick break.
No
if you
problem.
and Scott show the pictures and talk about it, I'm sure
no
you can fill in
problem,
with these
man. No
pictures.
problem. Yeah, look at this place.
Oh.
Now look at the pareidolia there, because that looks like a little figure standing in front of the tree. There's a head and an arm, and this is something else, is it not?
Oh, dude,
that's what I'm talking about. If you were in there, Scott, can you imagine the energy of being in there? That's a world of its own, man.
Well, this goes back to what, you know, we've talked about before, and you've talked about like the trees, right, and all of that. Now we're talking about an ancient forest here that has not been touched. You know, That's crazy, dude.
That even looks like
So-
that looks like big head, arm coming out. Whoa, I'm telling you, man.
Telling you, if Joe's seen that, you know it would be.
You
he'd
know
be
where we
out.
would be going with that. It wouldn't be comfortable, but we would be going there. Now look at this. Look at that, though. Look how beautiful that is.
Wow.
And I don't care if people laugh about me and my thing with the trees and the woods. That is a magical world.
See, you've got to imagine that a place like that, that old, that hasn't been touched, really.
Oh, Kev's jumped dead. But yeah, those pictures there, the darker ones, are even better. They're in the fog.
Yeah.
What it looks like when the fog hits the forest.
And then the fog, we talked about the fog and the mist and, a lot of stuff that could be associated with that. And just, there's got to be a lot of energy and a lot of just stuff going on there, I would say.
So, while you're looking at the pictures, I'm just going to carry on. So, the legends and... You like that, Kev?
Oh, I'm perfect, man. I'm perfect. I'm good to go.
Good. The legends and the myths go back to a time before men could write. Druids, ghosts, the devil himself, and supernatural creatures like the Whisthounds roam around the woods. It's filled with adders, and locals will not venture into the woods at night. The Druids held their secret pagan rituals here. It depends on which part of the moors you see them, but the Whisthounds are either being led by the devil himself or by Old Crocken, who lives at nearby Old Crocken Tor.
Does it really matter which one of the two it is at this point?
Yeah.
You're going to sit there and you're going to say, now I wonder which one that is tonight, eh? Oh, it's yourself, devil. I thought it was the other fella. We're all right then. I ain't going anywhere near that.
Also, there's a ghost of a dog called Jumble that lives in the woods. If you would like to put in the pictures from the rest of them, basically put in up to 34 to 39, all the dark, misty, foggy pictures of the forest, and you'll really get to see what it looks like in that view.
Is this the 33?
I don't know how far you've gone, but I was on... Looks like you put a couple in anyway. So like from 28 to 33, all the rest of the pictures of the forest.
Yeah, this is the one that really...
The misty ones.
This is the one.
These really show you what it's like.
Yeah, this really blew me away when we looked at this one earlier on. I mean, look at that. Come on. Couple of day mushrooms down you, Scott. Chugging along, walking down, just have a seat under there, man. You know you're going somewhere magical.
Well, funny enough, they do grow up there, Kev.
Oh, nice. Yes. Yes, you see, when I look at a forest like this, guys, I automatically assume that... well, people think I'm mad anyway. But I think the trees and the fungi, I think all of that, I think it's all one living thing. So... it doesn't surprise me when you get like a really cool forest and it's got all the things you'd expect to find there. Like I say, almost it's like a self-contained biosphere. It's like something weird, isn't it?
Yeah, this is an ancient forest, Kevin. What's left of it?
I mean, you think about it as well, guys. I mean, that's life, right?
Yeah.
Your trees and things like that. I tell you, man, it's
just think of the sort of, because I believe that, like, because the trees and everything, those are living organisms that they're holding memories, right? They're holding, just all of that energy and all of the stuff that has taken place there is like stored there, like a record.
It's like the kind of sacs in your lung as well, right? Your alveoli or whatever they call them. Because, I mean, that's taking the crap in and giving good stuff out. You got the whole photosynthesis thing going on and stuff. It's almost like an organ, you know?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Ah,
So,
deep
yeah,
thoughts
so-
from Baker. I think I'll get my archaeologist face back on and I'll get thinking about this a little bit more. I like it.
So that is Whistman's Woods. Now I'm going to talk about the little story I put on the end of it. It's called the Dwarf Forest. Not because
You having a go at
there's
me?
dwarfs.
Are you having a go at my thighs?
Nah, Kev. The reason is, if you put in picture 39, which is a sketch of the corner of Whistman's Woods and the Crock and Tor, so that's 39.
The Crockentor. What a name. That is absolutely classic. Here we go.
So that's the drawing that I'm going to talk about now. This is a story from Lady Verney in 1877.
Okay.
She visited the woods, the forest.
Jason, just before you go any further, we've got Lewis. Where is this forest exactly?
Right, it's exactly next to Crock and Tor, which is in Dartmoor, which is next to, right, my mate told me today where it's near Post Bridge. You park it. Oh, sorry, park at Two Bridges. Two Bridges you park at, he said. And then it's just up on the Tor there, he said. So it's near Two Bridges and Tavistock and Princetown. So it's just past Princetown by Two Bridges. So that's exactly where it is.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm going to talk about Lady Verney now, who went to this place in 1877. Now, the reason I put it in is because the way the video I've just released, if people want to go and watch it afterwards, it's her version, and because she's posh and it's 1877, the way she describes the forest is almost like Tolkien-like, and it's just the way she very articulate, and just she really, really gives it depth. So it's a real good story.
I like that kind of oldie English.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah. Use words I had to look up and everything, Kev.
Yep.
So she basically, the shortest story is she goes into the forest. Now she's with some other kind of people who do geology and horticulturists and other people. They go off to the Devil's Jaw. So she stays in the forest on her own. And she sat there and she describes the trees as looking like little elephants with trunks and like little men with arms.
Well, it's
and
funny.
things like that.
Now there's a synchronicity. What did I say, Scott, when we looked at this picture here? I said, hang on. I said, oh, look
Is
at
that
that.
one I was gone?
I said, yeah, I said, look at that. It's got the head and then it's got the big arm coming out of it. Yeah.
He's got little ears.
Yeah, it's very anthropogenic.
Yeah.
I got it first time. Way.
Well done, Kev.
Yeah.
So yeah, the way she describes it, and you can see south, it's just magical. So she says that she sat there and all of a sudden she can see some eyes. Now she keeps her gaze fixed on these eyes because she knows if you lose the gaze of a Pesky, you'll never see it again. So all of a sudden the Pesky stands up and decides to rub its little nose. And she comments that, maybe little people don't have handkerchiefs. Anyway, the eyes are watching her and she's watching it. And all of a sudden there's some thumping. So she quickly takes her eye off for a second and looks back. And in front of her now is a rabbit thumping on the ground. So she describes it as only seeing a coney. But then she goes on to say she did take her eyes away. And then when the others come back for her, they have to go off to get the train. And as they're departing, she says, as they're driving, I'm assuming it's in the coach in them days, Kev, she can hear the little voices behind her. And then she comments on the train on the way home that she thinks she's been tricked and the Piskies were playing a game with her.
Now, she took her eye off it, so you could be logical and say, well, Thumper turned up there, and it's something totally its own thing. Or are they shape-shifting Piskies?
Yeah. Or were they both in it together? Who knows?
Were they in cahoots?
Yeah. So this is the good bit for me now, Kev. This is the bit that you've got to read. So what I want you to do is go back to Discord, please.
Okay, I'm there, man.
And let's have a look at my bit. So yeah, if you scroll down, just after that little picture, scroll down. Keep going, Kev. Keep going past the trees and the sketch. What that bit does it say? Go back up. Is that the Whistman's Woods bit?
Yes. Yeah.
So if you read that for 2 seconds, I'm just going to have a quick break.
Okay.
That just gives you. Oh, I forgot something. There's something called the Lich Way that leads at the side of the woods, and that's where they used to bring the bodies for burial from Tavistock to Lidford. So that's where the bodies would go past there as well. But this little story is only a couple minutes long, and they give you some more ideas about the woods, and I'll be back in a second, Kev.
No problem. I'm just going to get that up just now. Give me 2 seconds. There we go. Get that chopped down like that. Get that up like that, Mr. Scott. This is, like I said, the guy's put a lot of work into this, right? When he said to me, Scott, I thought, all right, well, you know, maybe half an hour about little people, Piskies, never heard of them. I had no idea it was going to be this comprehensive. And what stories, man?
Hey, I've never heard such an in-depth breakdown of.
I want to know what your mum thinks of this, either later on or tomorrow. You know, even if she isn't a believer, dang, there's a lot of lore around these little fellas, right?
Lots of lore, and you know, after Jason gets done with his presentation, I even have some Icelandic woo to drop on all of this. That
Nice.
you know, it just adds to all of this, I think.
Well, let me get through this before Jason comes back, or he might give me into trouble. I'm only joking. But this here says, the legend of Whistman's Wood. Twisted branches curl into canopy above your head, and sunlight glimmers onto moss-covered boulders at your feet. Tucked away in a valley on Dartmoor, Whistman's Wood could be the threshold to another world. Oh, so it's not just me that says that then, thankfully. It's a rare example of a stunted oak forest, with trees growing no more than 20 feet above your head. It's thought to be the last remnants of a forest that once covered the entirety of Dartmoor. Now, with this particular patch being around 500 years old, at 9 acres, it's a wonder why such a small area has been left untouched. The place is shrouded in myths and legends, from the mystical druids to the evil whist hounds of the devil himself. I thought for one moment there, my soundboard it wasn't playing the game. I thought the Piskies had got me. But it says here, when you visit the Tolkien-esque forest, it's easy to see why. Look at that again, Scotty, right? And you've got all these kind of stunted trees, they only grow so high, and dang, that is a world unto itself. So it says here, the early 19th century writing of Eliza Bray discuss Whistman's Wood as one of the last remaining ancient druid groves. Apparently, they conducted ritual here beneath the oaks, carving spirals and symbols into the moss that you can still see today. I wonder if Tony Blair goes there with his wife. He's into all that crazy stuff. It takes a little imagination to see why this is seen as a spiritual place. Wildflowers cling to every rock and branch. Birds flitter between the leaves, and the rush of the river can be heard in the valley below. It's peaceful and incredibly beautiful. Now, I say it's crazy stuff when people like Tony Blair and his wife get up to it, but I know we've got Wiccans and pagans and everything that listen to the show, so I hope you appreciate that was just my kick in the stones to a politician. So this is the bit I was wanting to get to. Hang on now. I think we might even need a bit of atmospherics for this, boys. I think we need a bit of music for this one, because we're getting into the literal, the devil's dogs. Can't get any better than that, right? Here we go. So then, the Whist Hounds. The charm of Whistman's Wood seems to belong to the daylight. Come nightfall, the woods turn from sacred sanctuaries into kennels for whist hounds who hunt across the moors at night in search of lonely travellers, followed by their leader, the wild huntsman, The dogs are said to have yellow eyes, huge fangs, and a howl that echoes along the misty moors when they are out chasing prey. The wild hunt is an ancient legend with roots in primal pagan beliefs. Still, it lingers in this lonely corner of Dartmoor. The wild hunt, indeed. Have you ever seen any of these dogs, Jason? Please tell me you haven't, man.
No. But also, if you've noticed, as I've been going through these Dartmoor legends, we seem to be obsessed with hellhounds, don't we?
Absolutely.
They seem to be everywhere.
To the point where, yeah, like we said with, earlier on, it's not supernatural, it's not paranormal, it's natural and normal. They're just everywhere. It's what, yeah. And come down here, it says ghostly hauntings. Just north of Whistman's woods lie the Leitch Way, an old processional route that crosses the moors to the parish of Lidford. Before cars, residents would have to take this long path to church on a Sunday, and for important events such as weddings and funerals, coffins would need to be carried along this route, and before being buried at the parish churchyard. It's not surprising that this route also became known as the Way of the Dead. This pretty dark history has led to tales of ghostly apparitions along the Leitch Way, especially near Whistman's Wood. And then there's a lot of debate about the origins of the name Whistman's Wood. Some people believe it ties into the Druid legend, meaning wise man's wood. The word whiz is related to the Saxon word to know, with Whistman meaning wood of the wise man. A more popular opinion, considering the wood's location, is that it derives from the Devonshire word whist or wished, which means pixie, led, or haunted. Dartmoor is notorious for its pixies, who seem to haunt every tor and outcrop, from leading lost travellers astray to causing cars to crash along empty roads. They have a mischievous reputation, and if the name is correct, then Whistman's Wood is one place where you can surely expect to be pixie-led if you aren't careful. I don't fancy getting pixie-led anywhere, but again, may I just say, how beautiful is that, you know? It's just stunning. Absolutely
I haven't
stunning.
seen anywhere like it, Kev.
No, same here, dude. I mean, nah, this is, and it's that whole stunted oak forest as well. The fact it's almost like a miniature forest. You've got these little it's just amazing, dude. It really is. I'm going to give it back to you, but Jason, we were just saying when you were away there, what a tremendous job you've done putting this together, man. It's I'm really enjoying this, dude. Really enjoying it.
Thank you, Kev. Hopefully I'm going to take it even further now. So, I'm going to go on about a bloke called J.R.R. Tolkien. He was an author.
I think I've heard of him.
He wrote he wrote 3 books called The Lord of the Rings. You might have heard of them.
That's the bugger. I got
so
you
I've
now.
been researching him all day, Kev, because I had some ideas and they look like they could be correct. But I'm no expert. So it says he took his influence from Beowulf, German, Nordic influence, Irish, Scottish influences. He studied at Oxford College and he was a professor of English literature. He wrote the story it was released in 1954, 1955. If you put a picture 40 up, it's just a little map of Dartmoor and what's it actually, where we actually are, so the people at home know what Dartmoor looks like,
Okay,
or what the boundary looks like.
Over here. Let me get rid
Yeah,
of
that was
that.
number 40.
Right, number 40 you want, yeah?
Yeah.
2 seconds, dude. There we go. There we go there.
Yeah, so that's Dartmoor, the area it covers. So I'm going to get into a little bit more about it later, but I just wanted to show you the area. So Tolkien was an expert in languages. He studied English literature and language. I don't know if most people know he fought in the First World War, and especially at the Somme. He went to Leeds after the First World War and was the youngest professor ever teaching the language. In the Second World War, I didn't know this part, he was a code breaker, Kev, and went to cipher school.
Didn't know that. I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, he was a code breaker. He worked on because of his expert in languages.
Was he at Betchley Park then?
Oh, I don't know. It doesn't say. It just says he went to cipher code breaker and cipher school. It's got to be there, isn't it?
I would imagine so.
I'd imagine.
Yeah.
So, as I said, he was an expert in languages and also mythology and folklore. In interviews I've seen, he talks about taking the English folklore because he believed that Irish and Scottish and Welsh really, really kept their myths more than the English.
Yeah.
And he was worried that we were losing all our stories. So he actually wanted to put together a book called The Myths and Legends and Folklore of England, but he didn't actually ever get round to it. So this is where I'm going to start tying in, I think, these stories into what he looked at. So I imagine now that it says he took the European myths of like goblins and trolls and made them the baddies. Do you know what I mean? And because theirs are a bit more darker, their tales, aren't they?
Yeah.
So I think all like the orcs and the goblins are all from that sort of thing. But I believe...
Could the orcs have been the deep mine, Piskies?
Well, I'm going to get into that, Kev. So
Yeah.
here we go.
Yeah.
This is my first bit of evidence I'm going to deduce. Now, do you remember the story of Vixiana
Yeah.
and the ring that made the Piskies gave to go invisible?
Yep.
So what happens in the Lord of the Rings with the ring that they use? The Piskies?
Frodo puts it on and he turns invisible, right?
Yep. So that's my first bit of evidence.
Boom.
The second
Number
bit,
one. Hang on. Now we're presenting this. We're in a court of law now. That's evidence. Piece one. Go for it, Jason.
So number
next.
two, if we are in the court of law, you're going to call substantial then, because now we know he was excellent at languages and he loved Cornish, Irish, Welsh. If Scottish got their own language dialects, Kev,
Yeah,
I think he was into that sort of
Because
thing.
we've got a Gaelic up here.
Yeah, yeah. And he was into languages I didn't even know existed and like making his own up. We all know that. But he based all his languages on like Cornish and stuff like that. So number three is actually Cornwall, but I'm going to say it anyway. He based King Arthur on Aragon. He based Aragon on King Arthur, I believe it says. And also all the experts believe that he did base Arthur on it. And I believe he based Gandalf on Merlin as well, which is from Cornwall. But because I'm on the border of Cornwall, we're so close, I've put them in together.
Well, let me get Scott on that then. It's not hard to go from Gandalf to Merlin, Scotty, that representation.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've always thought that too, that the way Gandalf is represented, it's very much like a Merlin, it's got that same kind of archetype,
Yeah.
And you could tell that, Tolkien pulled from a lot of these stories and legends and all of that, and he was inspired by it, and he kind of, created his own thing from it, but it's all based in stuff that probably, a lot of these, Piskies and, all of that stuff, he just used that as kind of the base for his story,
And mission accomplished, because here we are today, and one of the most famous trilogies out there is your Lord of the Rings. So he maintained that legend, the myths, the history that he was scared we were losing, even if some people don't recognize it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what he wanted to do, Kev. And I know probably in the chat some of the Welsh listeners and viewers will be going absolutely crazy.
Yes, let's start
King
a turf
Arthur
war.
and Merlin's from Cornwall, because obviously Pendragon and the Welsh, they claim him as well.
Well,
but I think there's a reason for that, Kev.
Well, before you go there, can I just, because I know we've got a lot of Welsh listeners out there, I'm with you. I stand with you, Wales. I won't take the knee with you. But hashtag Welsh Life Matters. Yep. Leaks matter as well. Yep. I'm with you. See, solidarity. I'm woke, man.
So So we're going to move on now. The Tommyknockers. Now, I think he turned these into dwarfs from the Germanic and Nordic versions because we've got no dwarfs in our mythology, that down here especially. I don't know about anywhere else in England, but it seems like dwarfs are more European type.
Well, myself and Scott, we got a first-hand kind of account of that from Max the Black Templar, right? The whole Germanic stuff. And, and that, like I said at the start of the show, it all goes so perfectly together. You're almost like weaving a tapestry of like lost
mythology, yeah.
Well, more than mythology. You know, you're talking about actual like
history. Lost history, essentially.
Missing hominins, you know, missing species, you know? A whole heap of stuff that's just gone.
Yeah. So, but there's a reason why I think he changed Tommyknockers to dwarfs. It's because the Tommyknockers are a race of peaceful little people. And I don't suppose people who like eating pies and not fighting would have been very good in a movie, would they, Kev?
Right, there you go.
Or a book especially.
Yeah, exactly. Some bits you have to take a bit of kind of creative freedom. Exactly.
So I'm going to go into the next number 6 now. The Peskies that live down deep in the mines and learnt to smelt metal and weapons. Now, I think in the film where you see the goblins and they're all smelting the weapons and stuff like that, that's where I'm thinking he's getting that idea. Yep. I can't prove it. I just think that's maybe where he got it from. So I'm going to give you now number 7, the Shire and the Hobbits. I give you Dartmoor and the Piskies. So if you put in pictures 41, 42, 43 and 44, Kev.
There we go. 136 people. Awesome. I like that. A lot of people trying to escape the crazy out there. This is what it's all about. There we go. Look at that. That is awesome.
Yeah, these are the gates and holes and allegedly the doors of the Piskies.
What size are we looking at here, roughly?
Well, not quite big human and not quite little person. Like the Tommyknockers are described as 2 feet, so that would be perfect, wouldn't it? You can imagine in Iron Age man and stuff like that crawling through these tiny holes to do mining. And even later generations, they would have gone in these tiny little holes.
Scott, you'll remember me showing these often enough, but Jason, you'll have seen them on my streams when I show the tunnels that go from Scotland to Turkey. They're tiny, right? They're about 2.5 foot tall. Oh, wait, they're 2.5 foot tall, the same as Tommyknockers and things.
Exactly.
Just saying.
Exactly. Funny that, isn't it, Kev?
Isn't it?
So that's all the little holes. Cornwall's even weirder. These all over Dartmoor, these little holes. Some people say they're mines, some people say they're Pesky homes. But in Cornwall, they put doors on their Pesky holes still, Kev. So in Cornwall, if you go down, if you ever see a little Pesky door made of wood, that's because one of the Cornish have put the Pesky door and probably left some food for the Piskies.
That's somebody that's got a right dose of the superstition still going, right? They've been brought up on all these stories, man.
Yeah.
They know.
Yeah.
Yep. Cream. You don't talk to them scones, cream, jam. See? I know that. I remember, dude. I've got a safe, Scott, if we ever go to war with these things.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you number 8 now. The old Crocken, spirit of the moor, rides with whisthounds through the forest. I'm going to give you Radagast, the wizard of the forest that rides the rabbits.
Yep, could be. Is there not is there not in one of those films a skeleton horse? Is there not something riding about on a skeleton horse at one point? Like,
I suppose
it's
in
like
the cartoon version, they're on horses, the wraiths, aren't they? Not on the beastie things.
Yeah. I don't know, there's something, but not good.
So, Fangor, or treebeards. I'll give you the trees of Whistman's woods. Get any tree up, it's got a beard on.
Right, I'm going to get it up.
You could pick any good picture from those woods, Kev. Pick the one that looks most beardy, but they all look like they've got beards, Kev, don't they?
Yeah, I can see that. Yep.
So I think with all of his knowledge, he would have known about this place.
Absolutely. I mean, look at that one as well.
apparently these trees whisper as well. Yeah, things like that. The tree
It's
bears.
got a hairy face.
Yeah. So I think that without going too big a leap, you could easily see this forest as being the Fangorn forest with the tree beards, couldn't you?
Yeah.
So next, I'll give you Battle of the Piskies.
Hang
Do you remember-
on. The defence want to make a deal. They're wanting to rest the case. They're wanting to they're out of here. They're already thinking we can't defend this, man. I'm only joking,
Thank
dude.
you, Kev. So I'm going to give you number 11, the Battle of the Piskies. I'll give you Battle of Helm's Deep. The Piskies retreat to Blackatall Copse and build the peat wall. And then they defend themselves. So I think that's a famous battle, the Piskies, in folklore. So it wouldn't be too
You would
much of a
expect it.
jump
You would
to-
expect it to be in. If what you're saying's right, and it's a very infamous battle, then it would be mad not to have it in the book.
Yeah, and obviously change it to like humans,
Yeah.
elves, like he did. So the last bit of evidence I'll give you is Burratall Reservoir, which was pick 12. Do you remember I showed you the lands of the Piskies that were flooded?
Yep.
I give you Isengard and the flood in the Two Towers,
Ah.
Yep.
which is next to the Pisky lands and Treebeards places and stuff like that. It's all close.
Wow.
So all these things I'm talking about are close to each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just my thoughts on it. Because when I come across some of these stories, they hinted a lot that Tolkien took the stories and putting them in Lord of the Rings. And then thinking over what I've researched, it wouldn't be too much of a jump. I'm not saying this is exact, it's just my opinion. But I think that there's a good case that he took these stories and put them into the Lord of the Rings. I don't know what you think.
No, I think you've. I definitely think there's something to that, and that makes more sense than my alternative theory, and that is that he was like Philip K. Dick, and one day he woke up in this alternative world that he's seen, and then he came back. No, I think it's far more likely that he's taken the very deep and lost kind of history, realised that it was going to get totally lost, and then spun it into this absolute epic saga that, again, maybe many people don't realise they're reading something more based in fact, Scott, than fiction.
Yeah. He took the deep lore and he just kind of put his own twist on it and, wrote 3 books based on it. And I totally, I'm on board with that. I'm pretty sure that that's what he did.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
now hang
agree.
on. G'day, copper. Yes, we've got Mammoth coming in for a cheeky little super chat there. Well, I don't mean it's cheeky, I'm just saying it's a super chat, but we'll wait for that. We'll wait for that to happen. Yes, indeedy. Thank you for that, Mammoth. Very, very grateful indeed. I'm going to be looking forward to speaking to Mammoth, Jess, obviously, and Luna and Donnie.
Much love to all you crazy KB sirs. Hi Kev, Jason and Scotty. Loving this Jace. So interesting. Thank you for putting this together.
I second that. I do. But you know what I was going to say, Jace? I'm going to be interested to see what our Australian brothers and sisters, our mob in Australia, has to say about this. See how it kind of, because there's bound, Scott, I'd be surprised if there ain't stories about little people in Australia.
It'd be interesting to see. I mean,
I seen Luna last night talking about nature spirits. So it's probably a similar thing. They've got different names for it.
yeah, and we've talked about the Anukin in Alaska.
I love that,
and-
the Anukin.
Yeah, and when Jason gets done, while he's been doing his presentation, he made me think of something else, and I pulled up some information that's going to totally tie into all of this as well. So, it's very interesting. There's this common thing, I think when you start seeing common things being talked about worldwide, in different cultures and stuff, then that definitely is a marker, kind of an indicator that it's based in something that is real.
Oh, dude, what a name for a band. Anukin and the Tommyknockers.
In Nukin and the Tommyknockers.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, Jace. Back to you,
That's
brother.
all right. So that's the stories of Piskies and the bit we were going to do. So now I was just going to talk a little bit about Tommyknockers,
Nice.
if that was okay.
Nice. I like them, man. I like that, the whole Tommyknocker thing.
Yeah.
Even my mum, when I'd said to her what we were doing, she's like, well, I like the Tommyknocker thing. So, yeah, I like this,
Yeah.
man.
So just before I start, that was brilliant timing by Mammoth, because in a minute after I finished the Tommyknockers, I just wanted you to have a look at a couple of photos on a search, and it'll come clear why. But at the moment, I'm just going to talk about the Tommyknockers and finish them off. So the Tommyknockers mainly come from Cornwall. They are in some laws in Devon and some in Wales, apparently, and it is in America, and there's a reason why. So the Tommyknockers are generally associated with the Cornish tin miners. They believed that the souls of the crusaders who crucified Jesus Christ were the Tommyknockers. So now, the original Cornish myth was the Tommyknockers were the souls of the people who crucified Jesus.
Whoa.
Because on a Tommyknocker, you never heard a Tommyknocker on a Saturday or during times of a Jewish festival. And that's what the myth comes from. So,
Damn.
mining. Yeah, go on.
No, I've never heard that before, man. That's mad.
Yeah, so mining is obviously one of the world's oldest professions, and men of the mines have heard the knockings since they begun. They earned the name from the pattern knocking that they always come before a cave-in. So, some say they are spirits of the dead miners, believing it was them trying to warn other miners of impending doom and to get out. One thing everyone in the world agrees on is Tommyknockers are mischievous. Miners for centuries have left them food and water to gain their favour, but some mock them as well. So here's a story I found. So it's actually from America from 200 years ago.
Whoa.
It doesn't say where, but it's got to be on the west coast. And I'll explain why in a minute because of where the miners went to. So there's a story about, it's somewhere in America called Smokeshire. Ever heard of it, Scotty?
Smokeshire. I can look it up.
Yeah, I'm sure it's in America. It doesn't sound like it's over here, Kev, does it?
No, but it sounds like somewhere I would like to live. Smokeshire.
Yeah, I thought that. I bet half the chat
Smokeshire.
would like to live there, Kev.
I think we'll designate the western portion of Speculation Island as Smokeshire. There we go.
Yes.
I've made my first executive order. Jamming.
So just while Scotty has a look, I'll carry on. So it says, in the hills of Smokeshire, almost 200 years ago, a group of 7 miners were at work. One heard a faint sequence knocking deep in the mine. 3 of the 7 laughed and joked that Tommyknockers did not exist. The remaining 4 miners fled. They claimed to have seen the Tommyknockers on the way out as they ran out the mine. The other 3 died in the collapse because they didn't believe, Kev.
You see, that's what I'm talking about when we mentioned it earlier on, man. That, like, when
Yeah.
you were watching, it was weird, Jace, right? Because
Yeah,
the faces of these old timers that had been down mines, as soon as they heard it, it was like the brown stuff was coming out of them. They couldn't move
Yeah.
fast enough. Everything, down
Yeah.
tools, leave it, you know?
yeah. But there is one other theory that states the little monsters live deep down in the mines, and they're the knocking sounds of the Tommyknockers chipping away at the support beams. But it's generally considered that if you're right to the Tommyknockers, they generally get on with the miners. So the Tommyknockers were first introduced in the USA when miners worked the Pennsylvania coal mines in the 1820s. Now, the Cornish were considered the best miners in the world because it's all granite and stuff down here, and they used to get the tin out the granite and stuff like that. So they're considered the best hard-walled miners in the world at the time. So they went to Pennsylvania in the 1820s, but they also took their myths of the Tommyknockers with them. When the Californian gold rush began, the Cornish miners were in big demand and welcomed with open arms. When asked about friends or family who could come over and whack the mines, they all would reply, "My cousin Jack in Cornwall." So they soon, immigrant miners soon got the nickname Cousin Jacks. So that's the nickname they were given by the Americans.
A lot of Chinese worked in the mining as well back then, didn't they? Was that around the
Yeah.
same time? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming, railroad days and that. Yeah, I'm assuming, Kev.
Yeah.
So it says, so generally, the same as Cornwall and Dartmoor, that if you were nice to the Tommyknockers, they would help you. But if you're not, watch out, it says. So, so they're blamed for taking, so it says here that the old myths would say, well, not even old myths, just back then, if a mine collapsed, it was because the Tommyknockers had done it. But if the miners survived, it was because the Tommyknockers saved them. So each way, they basically put a collapsed mine at the doing of a Tommyknocker.
Now, hang on, Scott. What would these people that deny the existence of water and things like that, what would they write this off as, Scott? Would this just be the noise of earth creaking before it caves in? Would they try and deny that there's Tommyknockers out there?
I don't know.
How does mining fit with that flat model anyway? I've always wondered that. Just saying, that's for another show altogether. Boom, boom.
Just don't mind too deep, or you might pop out the other side of the disc. You know?
Oh man.
Excuse me, it's man.
Okay, sorry, I forgot about you, you freak.
I looked up Smokeshire. I looked up Smokeshire, and I think it's in Vermont, or it was in Vermont. It may have been a village or a town that may have a community that once existed, but I'm not seeing anything right now. Could be something along the East Coast, actually. On the eastern.
Just before I go on about the next bit, there's so many stories of the Tommyknockers and Cornwall mythology. Now, my plan was, when I finished these stories in Dartmoor, was to go on to the Cornwall myths. But I'm going to show you why I'm not going to do that in a minute. But I'm just going to give you one more story. In 1956, the Californian mining industry came to a grinding halt, and the mines were shut. But the miners lobbied the general managers to release the Tommyknockers, to find a new mine, and the company agreed and left all the doors open so the Tommyknockers could find new homes. So even in the late 50s, middle 50s, the miners still held the myth that they felt so strong about it, they lobbied the mines to keep the doors open to give enough time for the Tommyknockers to find new homes.
Nah, come on, Scott, that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it is. It is cool. It is cool.
Yeah.
So, like I say, I don't really think I can do the Tommyknockers justice. So I'd like to come back another day, because there's a reason why. If you go into Discord, Kev, into our and the next, if you keep going down, there should be a bit called Legendary Dartmoor somewhere. One of the links I sent you is called Legendary Dartmoor. One of the links.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, if you click that. Now, I've done about 12 stories from Dartmoor. Now, if you scroll down that page and keep going,
Whoa.
Keep going. You're only at D, Kev. Keep going. You get to the P in a minute and see all the Pesky stories. So when you get to P, that's loads. They're all there.
Whoa.
Keep going. That's the stories of the moors, and I've only done 12 of them.
Holy shimoly, man! There's a book in this.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, my plan is now, I've talked about all these places, and as you know, I went up to the Hellhounds Church, didn't I?
Yeah.
So, I plan to go to these places. So, what I was going to do tonight while we're on your show, most of your subscribers follow me. Now, next week, I'm going to go to one of these places. So, I thought we'd ask the audience where they think I should go. So, we'll play a little game.
Awesome.
So if you think I should go back to the Hellhounds Church again, press 1. If you think I should go to Brentall Church, where the devil fought St. Michael, and you have the boulder in the churchyard, or 3, Whistman's Woods. I reckon I've got an idea what they'll probably say, Kev. 1, 2, or 3.
Wait, hang on.
And
Where have they put your website, dude? Where have
Oh
they put
no,
your?
where've it gone?
Oh, it's gone. It's disappeared on the filter, man. Oh, what have they done?
I've disappeared, have I, Kev?
Yeah, totally, dude.
The algorithm hates me. Did you write first Paranormal and still got? Yeah, I had trouble finding it myself, Kev.
Hang on. What's one of the paranormal investigations you've done?
Just put in Piskies Dartmoor, that'll probably find it.
There we go.
There we go.
There he is. Yep.
And as you can see, about a couple of hours ago, I've just released the Whistman's Wood video.
Yep.
And there's the Pesky one.
So where's the 2 places you want people to choose?
Right, no, 3 places. I go back to the Hellhounds Church for number 1. That was what I've just been to recently. Remember Cable's Tomb?
Right. Yep.
Number 2, I go to Brentall, where the Devil's Tour is, and go to the Brentall Church.
Devil. Yep.
Or I go to Whitman's Wood for number 3.
Oh.
And I just thought it'd be funny, let the viewers pick where they want me to go.
Right,
I'm not
then.
guessing that it's going to be a lot free, I
Right,
reckon.
that's what we'll do. We'll shove on some tunes for 30 seconds. We'll let people choose. In fact, just about a minute so I can go and just pour a quick coffee. And yeah, we'll have people. 1, 2, or 3 folks. Now, I'm going to have to leave you boys to check the numbers coming in here. But it's looking very much 3-ish here already, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought it might be.
Okay, give me a second, guys. I'll be right back.
Is it looking like 3 still, Scotty? Nope, not
Yeah,
yet.
a lot of 3s coming in.
Yeah, I thought it would be. It looks too good a place not to go to, doesn't it? But as you can imagine, everyone at home, I'm not just going to go to these places once. So I'm going to keep going back and again. So I want to explore the places we've talked about and see what's going on up there. So it's looking like number 3, really, isn't it? Sorry, I can only just see the chat. It's quite small. How's everyone doing out there, all right? Hope you're all well. Hope you're enjoying the show so far. Now, hopefully Kev will be back in a minute because I'm rubbish at filling in. Oh, still looking like number 3. It's looking like a winner there, I think. So the next bit I want to talk about, everyone, is going to be a little bit of archaeology. I'm no expert, believe me. I just want to show some of the things that are on the moors. And now I think people like Mammoth are going to love it. So I'm just going to explain a little bit about Dartmoor. So, Cornwall and Dartmoor tin mining begin in the Bronze Age, around 2,150 years BC, and ended in 1998. Now, most of the moors is covered in granite, and it's the largest in the UK. Apparently, there's 241 square miles of it. There's more than 160 tours on Dartmoor, and they date back to the Neolithic period, and it contains the largest concentration of Bronze Age remains and covers 39 square miles. So that's Dartmoor. And in a minute, I'm going to get Kev to show you the standing stones.
Yo.
Yo, how you doing, all right?
I'm back, man.
Was I actually on? Was I just talking to
Yeah,
myself?
no, you were on, dude. You were on.
That's
Yeah,
all right
yeah.
Because I just read what I was reading out.
No,
That's
no,
all right
Jason.
then.
I just went to grab a coffee, man. Thanks for
Yeah,
that.
that's all right. I was just explaining a little bit about the moors because there's something I want you to look at in a minute when you've got when you're settled.
Yeah, I'm good. Good. Tell me what to look for, man.
If you go into a search engine, doesn't have to be the biggest one in the world, just write in Dartmoor megaliths. Good luck spelling it. I just wrote anything that looked like it, and then
you see, I've done enough shows with megalithic people to
so
get that
if you
way.
write in Dartmoor megalithic and just go to the images. Now, the reason I haven't sent you any is because there's thousands.
Yeah, I thought so.
Now you can talk. I'm going to pick a standing stone. Pick one of the pointy ones, the one in the middle at the top.
Very phallic. It's a very phallic looking symbol. Right. This one.
They are called prehistoric. They're prehistoric, and they're called menhirs or stones. Standing stones. We've got circle stones. We've got cairns. We've got stone rows, and they're all about 5,000 years old.
Now stop there. Look at this one, folks. Look at that, Scott. Look how long that goes off into the distance there. See that tailing away, man?
You got to be careful. Some of them might not be on the moors, and you get tricked by other ones. But most of these are the stone circles. They're just everywhere. As a kid, Kev,
that looks like a small kind of Stonehenge going on there.
Oh yeah, that's nothing yet. If you scroll down, there's like massive, like megalithic table-looking things and stuff. There you go.
That's what I was describing earlier on. Remember when I was saying to you, it's like rocks balanced.
And we've got cairns down here because, as you know, Kev. Cornish is Celtic, and we're on the border, so I'm assuming from all our myths we were pretty Celtic ourselves.
I would imagine.
And that's why we tie in with Wales, Cornwall, and Devon tie in together.
Yep.
And it's why I think Cornwall and Devon fight over the myth of Arthur, because I think we were all intertwined back then. Obviously, we had the Romans invade, but they pretty much left Wales, Scotland, and Cornwall and us alone, and just left the Celts to it.
Look at this again, Scotty. Here's one of these. We just randomly. This is what we were talking about earlier, right? Looks like a page in a book.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's 5,000 hut circles. Most of them have been robbed for their stone over the millennias, but we've got thousands of just things everywhere: troughs, granites, bits sticking up, stone circles everywhere.
You've got look at that. And that looks like there's one up there as well.
And even through, my mate was telling me today and reminded me, even when you go up the moors, the farmers' troughs are made out of these stone blocks that are just sticking out. They just dig a trough in like thousands of years ago, and the farmers still use them now, the same ones they've used to farm for thousands of years.
See, when you see them like that, though, there's something says to me, Scott, that that's some form of telegraph pole that maybe had like electricity somehow going between it or something. I don't know. It's almost like acupuncture into the earth. I don't know, dude. There's just something a whole lot weirder and wooer going on than I think we even appreciate at times.
Almost like tapping into the energy of ley line.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or even focusing natural energies, you know?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember you last time asking me if I've looked into the ley lines. But as you can see, Kev, every time I expose something, there's like another rabbit hole.
Yep.
But my plan is, hopefully when we're out soon, is to go to all these type of places and do a video on them. And try things like, I've got myself a compass now to go up to see if there's any kind of... what's the word I'm looking for? Magnetic forces and stuff. Maybe do some spirit boxing up in these places, because what they're saying is this was hunter-gatherers and that we've got all this. I'm no expert. I just wanted you to show people what the moors is. We've got all these stories. We've got all this. This is crazy.
I'm not like a qualified geologist or anything, but I struggle to see how a glacier would have deposited that, Scott.
Obviously, the standing, obviously the standing stones and circles. They say that Iron Age man built, but then they say he was only a hunter-gatherer. Nothing to see it. He's just stuck a 2-ton stone on another one.
Exactly. So, Scotty, come on. Let's hear. What are you making all these, man? You talk about our history over here and things like that at times, but dang, dude.
I don't see how a lot of this stuff can be made naturally.
No.
You know.
No.
That's all I'm saying. And then I think the dates that they put on a lot of this stuff.
I think you just have to take the can we? You know what I mean?
Really old, isn't it?
It's a lot older than what they are trying to tell us, you know, because you start going back a little too far, then it contradicts, you know, their theories and what mainstream, you know, what mainstream historians have tried to teach us over the years. You
Makes
know,
you
it
wonder
just
though, Scott, right? Because
flies in the face of their theories.
we
You know?
talk about that mycelial network, right? That fictional thing, right? But if we started from one point, i.e. a big bang, and we all come from that, everything, you know, that explosion, everything was created, and, you know, is it rocks that are quantumly entangled with things? Have they got some kind of network, something that we have not even appreciated, dude? Something we don't know.
I mean, if you really wanna go down that route, then we're all made from stardust.
Yeah, exactly, man.
We're all made from particles that were blown out of a supernova billions and billions of years ago, or you know, whatever.
Scott, we often say,
massive.
like, ancient people, they were connected to everything. Well, literally everything is connected.
Yeah, because like I said, even if say let's just go with the Big Bang thing, right? Everything came from a central point, a single singularity, and spread out from that one point. So yeah, everything would be connected.
Yep.
So I just wanted to explain to everyone and you is underneath that moorland, about 5 or 10 feet down, is literally all granite, Kev.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why there's so much granite. It's just ridiculous. It's mostly granite everywhere, and obviously granite is one of the hardest stones to mine and things like that, isn't it? So, but yeah, granite's got the crystals in, hasn't it? And don't forget, as I said to Scotty last time, all these buildings and old prisons and stuff were all made out of the granite from Dartmoor. So did that make the places even more paranormal? Do you know what I mean? Because they were taken from the moors. And also,
oh damn, I hadn't even thought of it that way. I had always thought about the prisons recording the energy from the prisoners. I hadn't thought about the transfer the other way though, Scott. You know, what had been recorded in the granite when it was like in location, in situ, before it became a prison.
Exactly, and if you've built a prison, you know, built a facility out of rock that was taken from a highly energetic area to begin with, and you transported it there, yeah, it makes sense.
God, kind of this hair thing needs sorting, boys. What's going on here? I'm getting rather Einstein and studious. I know, Jace, it's looking terrible. I know. It's lucky we've got a small camera. You need to go
south. Do it yourself, Kat.
No, even if I wanted to go bald right now, bald isn't a good look for anyone right now. It's not an option. Give it a week or so. Give it a week or so if you're planning on going bald, or you'll get people like me wetting themselves at you on Twitter. I'm sorry, I'm childish, but hey, can't be helped.
Yeah, no, it's not a great time.
Some people will get that joke, some people won't. That's okay.
Yeah, I've just clicked what it was, Kev. I've just clicked.
Yeah, it's okay, because I know you done it for the right reason. You done it for practicality. You didn't do it to get likes and shares on Twitter and things like that. You didn't want to change the world with your new profile picture, Jason. I know that. Yeah. Scott laughingly. All these virtuous buggers make me feel so bad, so they do, Scott, you know.
So that's pretty much it, Kev. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I just wanted to show you some of the megaliths of Dartmoor, because we take them for granted. As a kid, we used to cycle up to Denham Bridge and jump off that, go past these things all the time. They're just all everywhere, Kev. It's just what it is.
I personally have thoroughly enjoyed what you've put together here. And like I say, that's a comprehensive piece of work you've done. And I don't know, you need to do more with that, dude. It's going to be good when you start going to the places. Now, did we get a location for you to go to?
Yeah, it was pretty much free, Kev, looking like.
So you're going to the woods, you're going to the creaky woods.
Yeah, everyone wants me to go and see this druid eye, don't they, in the dark?
They do. Right then, now, I'm going to show some pictures from our other listener, Carol. But Scott, I know you had pulled up something, man, and I want to see what you found, what you're going to bring into the party here.
Well, since we're on the subject of Piskies and Tommyknockers and
Brilliant website, by the way.
Yeah.
Brilliant website.
It made me think of the Oldu folk that the Icelandic people believe in or talk about. And this is quite fascinating as well. And I don't know if
like
Jason
Yoda.
has really.
Oh, it looks like Yoda, man.
It totally does look like Yoda, doesn't it? Wow. But I don't know how much Jason has looked into the Holdu folk, and but I pulled this up on ancientorigins.net.
Let's hear about it, man. Let's hear about it. Come on.
So yes, the Holdu folk, supernatural creatures hiding in Iceland. It says in Icelandic folklore, the Holdu folk, meaning the hidden people, are like elves. These beings are also said to be very similar to human beings and live in little houses in the rocks. Although the Holdu folk are usually hidden from the view of people, some humans are believed to be privileged enough to see them. There are many stories of encounters with the Holdu folk, and I guess I'll go through this here because it is pretty interesting.
Big time.
It says there are at least two stories which provide an explanation for the existence of the Holdu folk. Both of these stories have a Christian aspect. In the first story, the origin of the Holdu folk is traced back to a period of time before the fall of man. The story is set in the Garden of Eden, where God comes to visit Adam and Eve one day and requests to meet their children. At that time, Eve was bathing them, so she had not finished doing so. Embarrassed to show God the dirty ones, she hid them and only showed him those who were clean. God then asked Eve if there were any more of her children whom he had not met yet, to which Eve answered no.
She was a wrong and right away, wasn't she? She really was. She had a. I'm telling you, we're starting to see a different side of Eve now, Scott. You know, eating apples, telling the big man no. Talk about the original feminist. I'm quite proud of her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It says God, however, being omniscient, knew what was going on and declared that those who had been hidden from him would also be hidden from man. As a result, the dirty children became the first Holdu folk.
That's pretty cool, man.
The second story is about a traveler who gets lost and stumbles upon a farm one night. He knocks on the door and is greeted by an elderly woman who invites him in. The woman provides him with supper and introduces the traveler to her daughters. The traveler is then given a bed for the night, and he asks if one of the woman's daughters could keep him company.
Brown chicken, brown cow.
A request which the hostess agrees to. In bed, the traveler tries to embrace the young lady, but his hands pass through her.
Serves him right. I mean, the guy got his dinner. He wanted his cake and eat it, you know?
He wanted his cake, didn't he?
Taking liberties, man.
The traveler inquired about what was going on and was told the story of the Holdu folk. In this tale, the Holdu folk came into being following the revolt of Lucifer in heaven, as they were those who never supported nor opposed the devil and his fallen angels. As a result of their neutrality, the Holdu folk were driven down to earth and forced to live in the rocks and the hills.
It's like Switzerland, really, isn't it? It's like the Swiss, they're always neutral and everything. They live in the Alps. You see, I'm telling you, man, they're the Holder folk.
I was about to say, are the Swiss the Holder folk? Yeah.
See if you read down in a minute here, and they say they've got like some crazy multi-tool that pulls out like stones from a hoof on a horse, and you've got one that opens like a bottle, and you know the Swiss Army knife. Dude, if they come armed with them, I'm out of here.
It says for many in Iceland, the Holdu folk are not merely fictional characters. in the country's colorful mythology, there seems to be a profound belief in the existence of these supernatural beings. There are those who claim that they have had the ability to see and communicate with the Holde folk. Furthermore, tours that bring visitors to sites where the Holde folk are allegedly to inhabit, to have been sighted, are also in operation on the island. This is perhaps especially so in Icelandic words are insane. That's all I gotta say. Yeah.
It's as bad as their volcano, the Hjerky Fjerkle Yerky Durky Durky.
So yeah, this is perhaps especially so in this place. I'm sorry, I'll butcher it if I even attempt it. Which is considered to be the elf capital of Iceland.
Let me ask you then, Scott, because near the beginning, I said to Jason, when you tell people about giants, not a problem, right? You think Nephilim, you think that kind of stuff. Yet you go little people, and they can't go there, and that kind of confuses me. And then you listen to mediums, right? And we're quite happy about the fact that people can communicate with dead ghost spirits, right? We hear about people who channel aliens, channel past lives. We're all okay with that. But I can guarantee there'll still be people out there going, oh, people speaking to little people. But it's the same thing. It's supernatural. It's not the ordinary, but I don't see how one can be ridiculous and the other is okay. It's kind of, we can accept that. Ghosts is cool, but not little people. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree, Kev. If I could just butt in a sec, just because that story sounds amazing, Scott. So they were thrown out of heaven and put in the caves. So how about through time they grew smaller and smaller and adapted to the size of the mines, maybe?
Very, very possible. And now this is I would say, the Christian aspect of this, because I believe the Holde folk also goes even farther. You know, it predates Christianity. Yeah. I think this is just sort of the
2.0.
Yeah, 2.0 version of it, because as we know, when you know, a lot of these pagan areas, when they become Christianized, they sort of incorporate a lot of the old pagan myth and legends and put kind of a Christian spin on it, obviously, so they can kind of integrate together. So I'll have to look more into like maybe the pagan origins of it as well. But this is just what this site is presenting so far. So going on here, it says the destruction of the Holde folk habitat. And I thought this is very interesting because there is a large majority of the Icelandic population that believe in the Holde folk. Like, I think from what I heard, because I've looked into this before, I think it's something like 53% of the population of Iceland, like, believe in the Holde folk. I mean, I could be wrong, but I remember it was a very, very large percentage of the population.
Scott, it's the same as when I was in Norway. I had no idea with them and their trolls, and there's a big percentage of people over there definitely buy into not buy into it, it's part of their life, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So it says destruction of the Holde folk habitat. It says, apart from that, it's also believed that the alteration of the landscape by human beings could potentially have a negative impact or a negative effect on the lives of the Holde folk, and that construction projects should be halted if they would disturb them. One example is a highway to link the Alftanes Peninsula to Gardaber, a suburb of Reykjavik. According to those opposing the project, the highway would cut through a Holde folk habitat. More seriously was the inevitable destruction of an important elf church, a jagged rock about 3.7 meters in height, if the project were to continue. In the end, the issue was resolved by a seer who claimed that she could communicate with the Holde folk. The seer mediated between the Holderfolk and the highway builders, and a solution was reached.
Wow.
It says it seems that the Holderfolk agreed to allow the project to continue so long as the elf church was carefully relocated to a new site. This is one instance where a peaceful solution was said to have been reached between human beings and the Holderfolk. Nevertheless, there are also stories in which the Holderfolk are believed to have retaliated against the destruction of their homes by causing bad things to happen, such as the breakdown of new machinery and accidents at the work site. So it's kind of similar to, what Jason was getting into about, they have to kind of strike a balance, a coexistence with each other, and like this kind of mutual respect needs to be shown, or else they're gonna mess with you, man.
I'd say
So,
really
yeah.
cool, but that one there, it's got the person who acted as the go-between, Scott. And I done a show on the channel the other day. It was, we'll pull it up here. See. There it is there. The last of the Leprechaun Whisperers. And, you can, funny title, cool thumbnail. But when you hear about that, this liaison, this go-between negotiating deals and things, and this cat here over in, I think his name's Kevin Woods, if I remember correctly. He's like the custodian for the last 230 odd leprechauns that are left. And he does tours and things like that, but whether it's leprechauns, whether it's Holderfolk, whether it's Piskies, whether it's the dwarves, the trolls, whatever names are for these things, right? You can't have... That's like some kind of shared insanity if all of these stories are like just made up and like, you know what I mean?
Say, the fact that we're sitting here talking about so many names that kind of encompass the same thing, just goes to show that, there's got to be something to it, because I don't think that you're going to have all of these cultures that supposedly never really, like, I don't think the people in Alaska were,
The Leggins.
the Anoukans and all that. They weren't in cahoots with people in the UK, making up stories about little people.
Were they on 4chan? Did this come from 4chan? Is this like a 4chan troll? Have we been had?
And it's funny. And look, that whole term itself, trolling.
Yep.
Right, Kev?
Yep.
Trolling is to create mischief, to mess with people online. And it originates from what we were just talking about, what Jason was just talking about. You had the...
Look at the example I joked about. You've got celebrities like Emma Watson and lots more who have literally gone bald for BLM. Only problem is it was trolls, mischievous little people on the internet that started it as a joke. They said, surely, they won't go for that. I mean, and think of the double-barrel joke here, right? Funny they do it, but then look at what they look like. They look like the very people they say that they're protesting against. They look like bad guys from World War II.
Oh, no.
Not you, dude. Not you. You know. Now, if that's not mischief, Scott, I don't know what is.
ZX in the chat, Loki, right? He was mischievous. He could shapeshift, make himself invisible, do all kinds of things like that. And that's in, the mythology with Nordic mythology and Nordic mythology. And, I wonder if that's where the word pesky originated from.
I think it might be.
Because whenever you use that word, oh, look at this pesky little guy. That means, he's bothering you. He's doing, he's, I really wonder, I'm pretty sure that probably that's where that word originated from, when people use the term pesky.
Well, is it just me that's found this thoroughly enjoyable tonight? With everything going on in the world, though, right? I mean, people might think that's weird. Look at Kev Baker. You know, what's he doing now? But this has been brilliant. And all that crap's still there on CNN when we get finished with this. But no, Jason, really, really enjoyed it. And it fits so well with the Max info. It fits well with what Scott dug up there. I've often mentioned the Fairy Glen in Rosemarkie up near Inverness, near my mum. And you go all around the world, you get all these various legends, all these various stories. Again, I'm going to say it, but you can't tell me that's just all like gobbledygook and stories to kind of scare the kids or entertain the kids or something like that. Not buying that.
It just blew my mind that it was so deep to where, like, we were talking about essentially 3 separate species of hominid, like living, you know, co-inhabiting, you know.
Well, how about is there a possibility that some of these things, because I don't know, when you look at grey aliens, sure, I get they come from space, but they also look like they could live underground. Like Peely Wally, you develop the big eyes, seen in the dark, things like that. We hear about mountains, perhaps in bases, underwater. I don't know, you know?
I was just about to say, you know, there's a lot of UFO sightings and a lot of UFO video where you see lights appearing to come out of the side of mountains. Yep. Right? You know, that's where they originate from. That
volcanoes as well, Scott. Volcanoes are common for it.
Yeah. So could some of this stuff really not be coming from outer space, you know, per se? Or could it be actually a lot of these UFOs be originating from deep within the earth? You know?
And if we were talking about quantum entangled again, Scott, is there something in the earth? Do they fly into mountains? Do they fly into volcanoes, etc., to get to a quantumly entangled planet wherever they're going? We don't know.
And then here's another interesting question. Like, so at one time, there was this coexistence where humans and, you know, Peskies and all of that stuff.
Peskies, brilliant, man.
Yeah, they interacted with each other like it seemed it was a pretty common thing, you know. And why is it now that they have, you know, no pun intended, seem to go underground, you know, and made it to where they're not this. There isn't this interaction anymore, and maybe they've seen what humans are doing and they're like, nah, time to go underground. They're getting a little out of control up there.
Seems to me the more we developed machines and technology that produce electromagnetics, the more we've produced all of that, I think the further away we've got from the machine that the planet was, you know. You got your radios came along, all that signals out there, all that noise. Yeah.
Maybe they feel that we've lost our way and that we've lost our connection. And so they've pretty much distanced themselves from us, you know, whereas back then we had a much deeper connection with nature and we kind of understood a lot of the there's just a separation now that they're like, we need to just kind of step back and let them figure this out, you know. And that's what I think. I think that they just were like, yeah,
I agree, Scotty. I agree, because there's one part at the beginning of the stories of the Piskies where I read earlier where they lost the war against the man and its machines. So they leave and take their secrets of the gold deposits and their magic with them, never to return. And that bit reminds me of the bit in Lord of the Rings. Do you know where the elves are leaving and they're never going to come back?
Mm-hmm.
That's what that reminds me of. We lost touch with them, and it's the time of man. So that's why I think he said that in Lord of the Rings, because it is basically the time of man, and we've forgotten our lore, and basically the old ways are dying.
Well, are we on the cusp of the time of silicon, the time of robots? Are we going to go the same way as our vertically challenged predecessors, ancestors? What happens when that all rolls along, Scotty boy? Do we head for the bunkers? Do we go deeper and deeper underground as the Terminators roll out and Skyborg gets going and all that good stuff that's out there?
Remember the skeleton that was found in South America that could like fit in the palm of the hand?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah. Strange.
Makes me think that just popped in my head too. Just while we're on the
Well,
topic of
before
all
we
this.
forget, though,
that's part.
on you go, Jason.
Kev.
On you go.
That's part of the reason why I'm doing this, Kev. Is like, I'm not saying I'm JR.
No, I know where you're
Tolkien.
going, though. I know what you mean, though.
I had a funny thought the other day, and go with me on this. It's 100 years' time. YouTube's not popular anymore. There's a kid on the moon. Some idiots bought a bug from Mars, and they all get locked up for a couple of months. Now, his mum and dad tell him that there was something called the YouTube that old people used to use a long time ago. So they go on, they see one of your shows, Kev, or even one of mine. And I'm just trying to keep the myths and legends going. Maybe in 100 years, someone will come across it accidentally, because if you think of the Devil's Footprints, which was in 1855, at the time, it was a massive story, but the story got lost. And in the 1960s, the vicar's papers were found of his drawings and the story in a letter he sent. And if it wasn't for someone finding that, we wouldn't know now about that story. It was only the rediscovery of the stories. So I'm just hoping that maybe one day someone will come across these and they get an interest and want to do it. Do you know what I mean?
You see, Scott, that's what makes him better than most of those other YouTubers out there. See, that's good work. But I think you're right, Jason, and I get why you're doing it. And I know you were never comparing yourself to Tolkien. We get that. But you are. That's what we're all doing in our little way, leaving our mark. Talking about the times that we're in. Whether people do get the chance to look back at this 2020 or not, I don't know. This might be one of those little episodes in history that just disappears from the annals over time. Might be one they want to kind of hide.
Here's another little interesting thing about the Hold of Folk. From it says they look and behave similarly to humans, but live in a parallel world.
Ooh.
There you go. See that? You could have the Bigfoot in there. You see, there's so many different. If there's many worlds and parallel dimensions, then it could be infinite. Really. We don't know. You can't put a number on it. Is it 3? Is it 5? No, I would imagine if it's quantum mechanics, our best understanding of it, those many worlds that splits off every time. There's many, 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 many. So you could have all of these dimensions with. There'll be some that is really similar to this, where literally just one grain of sand might be different. I know that sounds weird, but then there'll be other worlds where humans never ever came about, and it was other stuff. And that's how varied and random it can be. And whether we're coming to some kind of convergence point, maybe that's why in the past maybe there was a convergence. Maybe at that time the worlds were all one. Something made them separate into separate things. I don't know. Maybe the vibration, maybe the frequency. Heck, I'm just some silly Glaswegian on my YouTube channel. You can't ask me big things like that. But yeah, I think it's pretty weird woo. And pretty good woo.
Good.
Oh, no
I'm
doubt.
glad you all enjoyed
Deep
it.
woo.
Just to say, I'm probably going to go and investigate these kind of places. As you can see, there's many, many more stories to uncover. So I think I'm pretty much going to stick the way my channel's going and stick with the lore of Dartmoor, because it only seems like I've scratched the surface. So,
You're going to be the man for Dartmoor.
Hopefully I can dig up some more and give you some interesting stuff that maybe I could come back again.
No, I think we'll have him back again, Scott. What do you think? Maybe? But before we go away today, I have to show you what one of our listeners sent in. And it's Carol. I think she's still in the chat room. Let me check. Yep, she's there. Your pics are coming. She sent these pictures, right? Now, I'm going to maybe have to look into Discord a moment to maybe get a bit of context. Yeah, but so I'm going to bring up a picture, and we could be looking at little footprints. Right, where are we now? Here we are. Let's get rid of that website first. Here we go. Yeah, I could definitely go with that. And whereabouts is this? I think we've got a map here somewhere. Let's see if it's in the Discord. Carol can tell us in the chat whereabouts this is, but I'll bring up the other pictures here as well. Let's take a look at this one. Pull that down. Boom. That does look weird, doesn't it? That is quite weird. Now, if that's rock, then you're going back a long, long time, right? Long, long time ago, when there was lots of lava and the rock was still laying down. Little Piskies down the mine. You see, you get a song on here and everything. This is what happens when you keep me on air like in 3 hours. It goes a bit kind of crazy about here. Let's see, this is the map. Here we go. So this is the kind of area that we're looking at. And again, it's lots of forests around there. Lots of woods. Look at this.
Do you know where this is?
I asked Carol, North Carolina. North
cool.
Kakalaki. This is like Joe Joseph's stomping ground. This is where he left like a trail of bodies and things. Oh, did I say that? Oh, the feds will get him now. Sorry, Joe.
That's Joe Joseph's old stomping ground.
North Kakalaki,
yeah.
Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
So, Carol, it's mud. Now, whoa, hang on, it's mud. So that means that it's not long time ago. It was like now. You're like
fresh footprints, possibly.
Yep.
Wow.
Oh, I like it. Look
at the size of them.
That ones there are pretty strange. Because if that's a duck, that's a big duck. And that's like a big stride that old duck's got there, man. That's a web-footed Pesky, North Carolina. Fresh prints. Yeah. Look at that. Back of our cow pasture. Well, you live in a wonderful area, Carol. Now, Carol, do you have livestock? Any cattle mutilations, weirdness going on there? I know I'm a weirdo. I ask the strangest of questions, but you should know me by now. Yep.
I like that. Your first question is, hey, any cattle mutilations?
not do you come here often, you know, how you doing? Not, but do your cows get tampered with, Carol? Oh, dang.
It's interesting.
But that's beautiful. That's beautiful. That there is, Jason, that's what the woods we have over here would look like if we got sunshine.
Yeah.
They would look nice like that. Yeah. But, Carol, that's fascinating that they're like fresh, because that's weird. Now, Carol, is there, we have about 20 cows. Oh, no cattle mutilations. It's good. It's good. I almost said, oh, that's unfortunate. But it's not unfortunate for the cows or for Carol. So, no, I'll just need to stick to Skinwalker for that. But I don't know, that's weird.
Yeah.
Well, you know, guys, I have had a blast. Dang, we've been going a while. It's been really good.
It's flown by, isn't it?
It actually has. And that's because it's been really good, really interesting. Jason, you spent days putting that together, man. Can't thank you enough. Been
Problem.
informative. We've had a laugh. We've escaped from the madness for a while. Scotty, do you think we might have a preponderance of evidence to overwhelm your mum with and get her into the pixie camp, man?
I shall find out after the stream. We'll see if we've converted her and.
I think she.
maybe
I'm not
change her
expecting
mind.
somebody just to believe us instantly, but I think we may have sown a little seed, a little kernel of little tiny truth. Pardon the pun. Yeah.
We'll see. Hopefully, she at least entertains the idea.
And somebody in the chat room says, I just want some steak. Absolutely. And Carol, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing when you talk about the cattle mutilations and everything else. You rarely hear about the rancher. You know, nobody ever says, oh, poor rancher lost a cow or anything. You never hear that. It's all, oh, woo, aliens, stuff like that. Scott, we've talked about, like, cattle mutilations before, right? We've never spent any time looking at the financial kind of loss that the farmers are going through. And even when I had Linda Moulton Howe on the show, expert on the cattle mutilations, I don't think we mentioned that side of it. So yeah, again, and probably next time I'll still stupidly ask you if there's been mutilations, Carol, because that's the way I'm wired. But I'll be back tomorrow with Bill Bean. And we are getting into the Son of Sam and other weird, dark, culty type woo. Yes, we've done the Laurel Canyon last week. The week before that we had the Mansons, and then I think the week before that we had Fall McCartney. Might have got them the wrong way around, but now we're going to go into this weird world of the Son of Sam, stuff like that. And hopefully, guys, I'll be here for just a chill out coffee stream tomorrow. Even just to look back over some of the things that's been happening on the show. Because when you do a daily show, it's quite hard for me sometimes to really connect some of the stuff that we've put together. And that's unfortunate because we've been connecting a lot of dots. A lot of things have been lining up lately. So it might be worth just taking a little pause, looking back what we've spoke about. I've got some drone footage of Clava Cairns, thanks to my brother and his friend Greg. So we'll be able to look at that. And yeah, we'll just chill out. And like I say, tomorrow night with Bill as well. So guys, I have had a blast. Scotty, I take it you're going back to watch the news streams, the live feeds. I'll probably be joining you, see if there's any action going on, you know, what's happening in crazy time tonight.
We've also got to check out an interesting little video I sent you before the stream.
Yeah.
A little bit of debunking, let's just say.
Yes, so that I can be armed the next time I need to. It's not, people don't take my gut feelings, and I get that. So at least I can add to my gut feeling and have ammunition on some of these people that we go up against. But folks, that is us. And Jason, tell people about your channel one last time, dude.
Yeah, you can find me at First Paranormal. Maybe one of the mods, if they were kind enough, could stick my channel in the chat.
I can do
come
that
have a
for you,
look
man.
at the stuff I'm doing. Thank you, Kev.
Yeah,
just check out my stories if you'd like tonight. I'm planning on doing a lot more, and I'm going to be visiting the places we've talked about. So, it's going to be a lot more to come for Dartmoor. So I hope you've enjoyed it and you realise what a kind of magical place Dartmoor is. I don't think there's anything like it in the world.
And the people are, there's some strange people down that way as well, man. There's some characters. Yeah, not you.
That reminds me of just so people know the kind of areas we're in. I'm not far from Bodmin Moor, which is only about 14 minutes away. And that's where you get, if everyone's seen Werewolf in London, that's where you are, where he walks in the pub and it goes silent. I've actually been in pubs like that, gone in, everyone looks here, you have a quick pint and get out.
Dude, I've been into pubs like that as well. And
You know what they say, don't go out on the moor. It's a famous saying at night, don't go out on the moor.
I see, that's really ominous. That's a really good place to wrap this up. So on that note, folks, I'll catch you tomorrow. Big thank you to Jason. Big thank you to Scotty for his time. Big thank you to all of you out there for your time. Something different. And I hope we've, if nothing else, helped you escape from the craziness of 2020 for a couple of hours. And just like I said at the start, oh look, all of the cray-cray and all of the madness that's still waiting for us. Yes. What does 2020 bring next? I don't know. I can promise you I will be here with Scotty, people like Jason, and we will definitely guide you through and commentate as we take front row seats in this crazy apocalypse. Keep your mind open. Keep looking for the woo, but not to the point where your brain turns to black goo. It's about the only thing that wasn't in the show tonight was a bit of black goo. Maybe next time. Whoa.